we going to talk about? What are we going to talk about?
All right, cool. We're good.
I saw one of Katie's posts.
Talk about it, who, girl?
She said she was talking about it was the parable of sowing the seeds, and somebody on there was like, "It's a great passage, but make sure." Hold on, what did they say? So they make sure to.
Okay.
Oh, I don't see it now.
Okay, he's crying already.
Make sure you also sow your oats.
No, it's
What's the parable?
the
Drake.
one about sowing.
No, Drake.
What about me?
Say it like a pastor.
Like,
Let's start the podcast with this.
all right.
How's my mic? Hold on.
It's still very hot.
Like what?
It's really funny because. Okay, I'm gonna read this. Maybe we'll cut it out. But so here's what she wrote. It's just literally copy pasted from the Bible. That's all it is. Listen to what the parable of the sower means. 19. When anyone hears the message about the kingdom and does not understand it, the evil one comes and snatches away what was sown in their heart. This is the seed sown along the path. Wait, where is this from?
You know J.K. Rowling?
20.
She
It's got
wrote the whole
like
thing.
it's got like the verse markers.
Yeah.
The seed falling on rocky ground refers to someone who hears the word and at once receives it with joy. But since they have no root, they only last a short time. When trouble or persecution comes because of the word, they quickly fall away. The seed falling among the thorns refers to someone who hears the word, but the worries of this life and the deceitfulness of wealth choke the word, making it unfruitful. But the seed falling on good soil refers to someone who hears the word and understands it. This is the one who produces a crop yielding 160 or 30 times what was sown. So I don't know where Katie got that from. Because I first
Sounds like the last
assumed-
person has techno tutor.
Well, I was assuming this is like from the Bible, but I'm reading it now. Somebody, I won't say who, they wrote, good passage, but keep reading and ask God for understanding.
Yo, God, can you help me understand this? He's like, yes, I will speak to you in more words.
here's
Wait
how
a second, God, I don't understand.
Here's how badass Katie is.
Speak to me in
"You should-"
feelings.
She goes, you should use your techno tutor. Then maybe you would understand the word the first time it's given to you. This entire passage, the whole point is to apply the word, not sit and constantly question whether you understand or not.
Who said that?
He said, you are misunderstanding scripture. You cannot take a set of verses out of context and expect to understand. The entire Bible is part of understanding. And then he put he quoted the verse or whatever.
What are you thinking, Cameron? Think out loud, my friend.
So many thoughts.
Oh, man.
Are you asking God about it?
It's like, I don't want it to mean what you're saying it means. So it doesn't mean what you're saying it means. How do you know that? Well, like, okay, how does this person know it doesn't mean what Katie said?
Because they're adding it up by 2, dividing by 2, and it's not giving the meaning.
But think about it. Like, why are they saying that? Like, why are they saying it doesn't mean what you're saying it means? You're taking
Clearly you didn't get my math joke.
No, I got it.
Yeah, it just wasn't.
I got it.
Yeah, all
It's
right.
arithmetic mean. I get it.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
That's a good joke.
It is, but what about geometric means? What about geometric means? I feel like you're reducing means to.
Cameron, don't go to the spectrum.
I will go to the spectrum.
Cameron will
On the spectrum.
I will become so autistic. Last podcast I got kicked off because I made fun of deaf people.
Yeah.
Now I'm gonna start making fun of autistic people.
Well,
I guess I won't be back for another 2 weeks.
What I was thinking about is I was looking up some of the sexualities, right? There's like 72 something. And
Oh, really?
it's like gender and sexuality. It's like
People
They just lump it up.
like
They're like,
allosexual.
first they said there's a difference, and now they're saying they are the same.
Watch, listen, hear me out, okay? So allosexual, what allosexual means?
You like
What
to
is
fuck
a-
aloe vera plants?
What? Yo, Megan Roberts, shout out Megan Roberts for giving us aloe vera plant. I'm very excited.
Dude,
Okay.
if you were
That sounds
like- sounds
allosexual,
like
it
green
would be
onions.
Yeah, wait, hold on.
That does
That
not
looked
look like
green onions.
aloe.
I think she lied to you.
No, I already broke off some
That's
pieces
pretty
Come on,
funny.
I
and,
got
and
to
used
see
You
it.
broke off all the
Wait.
leaves.
Okay, I see.
leaves, not leaves. You
Yes.
bastards.
I see it. I see it.
I said, if allosexual
Oh, God.
meant that you liked aloe plants, it would be very lubricated.
That's true. You'd have to break it open.
Is that what it means, Esther? What does it mean? Like you love all?
I just like to
Okay,
keep
you
it
guys lower your
intact
mic.
with the spikes.
Us? Okay. Good lord.
yeah, probably not enough. But
I
whatever.
think Cam needs to go up a little bit because
Yeah, Cam needs to go
Oh, I
up.
think my thing's just far away.
Yeah, Cam,
How's
come
it?
up.
Is it better at all, or do I need to turn it up?
Turn up, Cam.
How is it?
Turn it up, turn it
And
up.
you guys turn down a little bit more.
How's it?
You
we
sound
got?
good. You
Nice,
sound good,
nice.
Cam.
That's
You sound-
really
Is,
nice.
it, is, is ours better now? Is this acceptable?
Look at this.
Yes.
You guys off the podcast for 1 week. You don't even know how to act. Come on.
Ban.
They're jacked up. They heard how nice our last one is, but what they don't understand is it can only happen without. No, I'm joking. So allosexual, what that means, it's ALLO. And you guys know what asexual is? What's asexual?
No
Like,
sex.
Right?
Sexual.
They don't
not
experience
Yeah.
like sexual attraction. So allosexual is the term used to describe people who do experience sexual fit, so as to not discriminate against those who are asexual, right?
Yeah.
But anyways, I was looking at that. I was reading kind of through
So
it,
we're
just like a couple.
considered allosexual?
Well,
Gotta
I
add
don't know
that.
if everybody already identified on the podcast.
What is allopathic medicine?
I don't know. Is it like?
I was assuming you could look it up.
I'm just.
Jamie? Sorry, Mitchell.
Allotropic.
Bryce.
You know,
Our
you know
producer's
what's-
name is Bryce from now on.
You know what? Just calling out to nobody. It's just Mitchell. Mitchell's like, oh, Bryce sent me this. It was really funny because one time, Kian and I think Christine or Maylat, they were referring to a podcast when when we were saying, well, if you don't know that, go use your techno tutor, or go look this up in your techno tutor. And Karen's like, if you don't have techno tutor, go look up the word dumbass. And then all you see is like Mitchell just leaning into his computer and just like, I'm like, Mitch, are you looking up the word dumbass? and then he's like, well, I was like, teachable Mitchell. But anyways, the point I was thinking about was it's LGBTQIA plus. And what is and it was explaining each one, right? Lesbian, gay, bi, trans, queer, intersexual, asexual plus, and the plus represents all of the other ones. If the plus represents all of the other ones, why don't they just put it at the start, like L plus? So they're discriminating by putting some letters there and then letting a
Yeah.
plus represent the rest of it. That's
Yeah.
ridiculous.
That's
And
discrimination.
that's what this podcast is about. We're advocating for I don't even know all the other ones.
Also,
We're advocating
You just
thank
need
you.
to sing the alphabet song every time.
Okay.
You,
That's sick.
even if a letter doesn't have one, you just say it anyways because there will be one.
And now and we have to include all the numbers.
And yes,
And imaginary or real.
yes, and
plus five.
actually, let's just go with all of the frequencies.
That's
Every frequency.
Every symbol, every frequency, ever.
Hey, I
all
don't
the
know.
emojis.
I don't know if we talked about this before, but the
Hang
entire
on. I just want to wrap this up. Allo means other or different. That's it.
Whoa.
It's
So
fascinating. Okay.
allosexual is the other one. It's the weird one.
You're the weird one for
Right.
sexual.
You want to have babies?
Okay, so what's allopathic medicine?
Yeah, I looked it up. Allopathic medicine is the term that is used to describe the type of medicine that most people are familiar with, and may also be described as conventional medicine, traditional, or Western medicine. The term is often used to contrast common practices with those of alternative medicine.
But what does the word allo mean?
It means other,
Other.
or different. And
Yeah.
in the
So they've taken the other one and made everything else seem like it's the alternative. And I've said that before. Like it's to make you think that stuff is the alternative.
Oh shit, dude!
wow,
Man,
that's
you are spelling. Hey,
That's
I'm out
so
here
good.
thinking. I'm out here thinking Cameron's asking what allopathic means just to look it up, you know. But little did we know he's casting spells on us. Literally, we're fucking we're hypnotized right now.
but they
Jesus.
literally call natural medicine alternative medicines.
That's my point. Yeah.
Yeah. No, like I'm seeing it like it. I just had to call it out. Like
It's funny because it's natural.
What is
It's like not natural.
homeopathic?
What's what?
Homeopathic.
I'm gonna say homeo. I'm guessing homeo same. I'm gonna look it up though. All right, similar. Yeah, homeo, similar prefix.
It's like the principle of like cures alike, right?
Yeah.
Aren't buried, but you Cameron,
So-
you're really good with words, dude.
Imagine that. What a coincidence. Okay, but I want to go back to this point about the Bible thing. So when the guy says that you're taking it out of context because you need the whole Bible for context, but then he also said you need to ask God for understanding. So basically what he's saying is you just need to speed read the entire thing and then go, okay, tell me what it means. Because you can't possibly read any one particular thing and then consider it or ponder upon it, because you have to have the entire Bible as the context.
And if anything, you can't take those books in the Bible out of context with all other books.
Even though there's other books they didn't include. Because who's
Yeah, that was always.
think about it, when you buy a Bible, like a publisher published it, right? Somebody put it together, and there are other books they could have put in there. The Bible is a collection of information that's taken over thousands of years and put in. It's like a collection of essays.
Here's
But
You know what I
Cameron,
mean? That somebody put together and left certain essays out.
only book that matters.
yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
It's the
I-
only.
I've-
It's
I've-
the only compilation that.
guy. When you're He's back.
No, you didn't do it on the podcast last time, dude.
Huh?
You didn't do
Yes,
it
it
on
was.
the was it? Oh.
It was on the podcast.
Sure.
It was definitely in the middle of everything.
Yeah, no, you're right. I think we went
Yeah.
hard on it afterwards.
I think Asif just
No, I
repressed
think we went
Oh,
really
man.
hard on it.
We
afterwards.
did. We
Yeah.
did. Okay, but here's the argument that I hear from people. I just
Also, shout out to one of our deaf TT clients. They got the approval on it. They said it was funny. So
nice.
That's what,
And also, everyone like, comment, share, subscribe, comment why you thought that was funny or why you thought that was insensitive.
yeah.
oh god, you guys look at these comments. They're so funny right now.
Oh my god.
Let
me read this one.
They're-
Just you, Cam.
I appreciate all these comments. I'm getting to continue what we were talking about before. We're gonna get right back to that, guys.
Well, hey,
Yeah.
what are you gonna say?
No. Cameron's trying to replicate the mastery of me and Drake. And it's just not going well for him.
Okay, so
wait. Actually, I had one question.
Go ahead, go ahead.
Cameron.
Okay, but before you do that, I want to talk about.
yeah. Let's hear it.
Okay, over to you, Jess.
Did you?
All right. All right. Here we go.
Well, did
Are you
you
ready for this?
did you comment when we said comment, and then later on you realized like you said because Cameron commented
we on
on the last podcast?
Oh yeah, because one of your comments was like, "Holy shit, you guys really can't see the comments."
Oh yeah,
Like,
I forget what it was. Why I said that, but it was something about you guys.
Because we were saying like comment if you want to know what happened to Cameron, and then like an hour later
there was
we're-
something you said where I was like,
we said it was just Cameron. That's what it was.
you said, yeah, it was gonna be me doing all the
Yeah.
commenting. Yeah, and I was like, holy shit, you guys really can't see him. Yeah. There was one time you said comment below, so I wrote commenting.
Exactly, and then we said, oh, like okay, because people commented, we're gonna tell
But
you.
it's like
this
I was
later.
genuinely
It was just
listening to it like it was any other thing I would listen to. You know what I mean? Like
That's cool.
I wasn't on it. I don't listen to the ones if I'm on it. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So here's the objection that I've heard from people who are like, well, there are other books of the Bible. Well, only the ones that God wanted made it to the Bible.
Yep.
So
Ready.
if he wanted those other ones, they would have been in there.
So okay, consider this. Who actually decided?
The
Who
Council
actually-
of Trent, isn't that who it was?
no, it was a man. Yes, I admit it was a man, but they were inspired by God. Like you can't do anything against God's will. So God inspired them to think it was them thinking that they were doing it. And
Right.
so
God was
really-
guiding their hand.
So this person who's saying that really literally wants you to think that like they are perfect. Everything they do is guided by God, and they never question anything that they ever do because they have God in there telling them what to do at all times. Even if they think it's them thinking it, they're just believing that it's God telling them.
Hey,
to do
man,
it.
that's not what I'm saying. Okay. That's not what I'm saying. I know I'm not perfect. I'm a sinner. but God works mysteriously. You know?
Right,
So
right.
Through
So I'm
Bible
like, we should do something about like child
Good
poverty and
ability.
everything.
God's working on that. You know, that's
God wants us to take responsibility for that.
No,
God
sometimes
knows.
God works
No.
through kids.
No.
Sometimes he works through priests. Sometimes he works through the priests to get
Don't you
through
know we
the
have to
kids.
have-
Yeah, exactly.
There always has to be poor and suffering.
Sometimes he works
Right.
things to get
Jesus said, "Blessed
into
are the poor in
kids."
spirit." So
That's gross.
So if you're still reading
Sometimes-
the Bible at this point, you should use your techno tutor. It's going to make a lot more sense.
Did you see that thing? Oh man, did you? I was watching the Babylon Bee. They have a podcast, right? It's pretty funny.
Shit, dude.
And
oh yeah, I've seen some of it. Yeah.
they were saying some of the like prophecies that the Babylon Bee has come out with. Like basically, they would create some absurd title, and then literally weeks later, months later, and in some cases a day later or the same day, just hours later, that would be a title of like an actual
Real-
article, right?
Oh my God.
And one of their prophecies was the Pope says we can't talk about the child molestation or pedophilia within the church because there are bigger problems at stake. And literally, like the article title or whatever the content of the article of a real article was the bishops. So it wasn't the Pope. So they were a little off there, but
Yeah.
bishops were basically saying, we don't have time to get into the whole child molestation thing and everything because there are bigger problems, namely climate change. That's
Yeah.
what their bigger problem. It's so fucking ridiculous. So ridiculous.
Yeah.
And it's like, it's funny.
You would think of all the things God was in control of, and he didn't expect us to be in control of. If there was a level where we do certain things in our life, but God takes care of the bigger things, you'd think it'd
Just
be
the climate.
You'd
Just
think
like the
it'd be
temperature.
you'd think it'd be don't rape kids, tell people to stop doing that, stop that happening,
Yeah.
and the weather. I'm God. I'll take care of that.
You would think
They're like, no, guys. God definitely expects us to regulate the specific amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere that he created for us. That that he also designed us to breathe out.
But forget about the give as you want to receive, love thy neighbor. Fuck
Yeah,
that.
yeah,
shit.
yeah, we don't
the
have
stuff that he
time.
said. Don't focus on that. Just focus on the things that we just made up, so that we don't have to do what he said. That's what he wanted us to do. So
that's it. That's it.
now I'm
Yeah.
going to lead billions of people to do as I do. Hey, here's the way I see it. Oh shit, dude! You guys are really waiting for me. Yeah.
I am waiting.
Oh man, now I'm gonna come up with something on the spot.
All right.
Here's the way I see it.
So
Here's
what
the
do you
way
guys
I
want to
see
talk
it.
about today?
Oh, okay, yeah.
Good question.
I'll tell you about a book I read.
Tell me.
No,
about it.
Cameron.
I want to hear about
Okay,
your book.
okay. If it's not sci-fi, you can talk about it.
It is. Oh fuck.
It's the Bible.
It's
Just
only
reading the
if it's sci-fi.
He's like, can I tell you about?
But it's relevant to something.
Can I tell you
Please.
about the Jehovah Witness?
So
Okay.
I actually I was talking to a Mormon the other day on Facebook. I'll get to that later. Okay, so anyway, so I read this book and I'll just give you the plot. So it's this guy who is a college professor at some no-name little like local college or whatever. He had done some really important research and then decided when his girlfriend, who was like an up and coming artist who was gonna be like really famous, they had a kid, and instead of having an abortion, he decided to just stay with her, have the kid, focus on raising a family, and neither of them went into like greatness, right? And so it starts at that point where they're kind of like, he's going to grab a drink, or he's going to go to like some party at a bar that his college friend is having in honor of himself winning this highly prestigious award, where everybody knows if this guy had stayed with science, like he would have been the guy getting that award, right? So he's going there. So he's feeling all those feelings of like, what my life could have been and all this stuff, right? So anyways, he sees the guy and all that, blah, blah, blah. Leaves the bar. As he's walking home or getting into his car or whatever, some dude like kidnaps him, okay? and puts him in the car at gunpoint, like drives him to some abandoned warehouse, like marches him into this warehouse, tells him to take all of his clothes. Like, you know, he's obviously trying to like figure out a way to be sneaky and get out of there. So the guy's having to like bash him in the head with like his gun and stuff like that. So the guy's all fucked up and everything, you know, it's like, it's not a good situation, obviously. Right. He's like, he doesn't know what's going to happen. So anyways, that whole thing happens. The guy ends up getting him to take his clothes off and put different clothes on. And then he injects him with something. And then the guy passes out and he wakes up and he's suddenly in this laboratory. Okay. And he's in this laboratory, but it's not like he's being experimented on. It's just like he's in like a lab kind of environment, like not at all where he was before in some like random warehouse in Chicago. So he wakes up in there and people come in and they're like, oh, Jason or whatever, you're back. What was it like? Like, what did you experience? Like, you've been gone so long. And he's kind of like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, I was just having a drink and walking home. Like, what are you talking about? Right. So obviously as the reader, you kind of seeing what's going on a little bit more than he does, but you don't know the whole picture. So anyways, eventually what happens is he realizes that he had just come out of this gigantic, like maybe like a room sized box, cube sort of thing. And from the perspective of people he was talking that found him, they were thinking that he had been gone like 8 months, like he got in this box and got out, right? So what it turns out is in this alternate reality, right, where he had decided to continue being a scientist and not be with his wife and left her and all that stuff, and she had the abortion and all that, he goes on to take the experiment where he created this little cube where he could put a molecule or like an electron in superposition. Superposition meaning it's in that quantum state where it's not collapsed. So all possibilities are possible and it's not been observed yet. Kind of like, you know, like think Schrodinger's cat, right? So it's in all possible states. And then in that state, so he's trying to create that. So he was able to kind of create that, but then to put it to the scale of a human being is like crazy. So in this timeline, he created it. You could get into the box. And then his friend, the one who won the award in the other timeline, is now like kind of a no-name scientist, but helped create like a psychoactive drug that would allow your brain to be in a suspended state. And then in this box, it would prevent anyone from collapsing the wave function. So you're still in that superposition. Okay, that's the idea. So basically, he's like, doesn't know what the fuck's going on. He's in this reality. They're kind of like trying to get him to tell him what he experienced. But he's like, I'm not the person they think I am. But if I don't play along, then I'm fucked. So like, as soon as they realize I'm not the one they're looking for, I'm disposable, right? So long story short, he gets back in the box and runs away and goes into the box. And then it's like, when he takes the drug, there's all these doors, like infinite doors. And when the drug wears off, it collapses whatever choice he's made of the door. So all the doors represent different realities he can go into. It's not time travel. It's like literally the same current time he's in, just an alternate reality based on a different choice he's made. So he can go into a reality where it's like super futuristic and amazing because a different choice, it's like an alternate reality that branched off in time. Does that make sense? Okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So he basically has access to all of those. And he's with this woman who's like helped him escape, right? So they keep going through different realities and going back because they have a bunch of supply of the drug. So they can constantly keep going back if they don't like the reality they end up in, right? And so
this sounds like that movie we watched. Remember that movie we watched? With the guy is like, oh wow, that guy.
Well, yeah, it is kind of like that, right? Yeah. I forget what that one was called. Owen Wilson, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna get to it. Wow. I'm just giving the context so it makes sense what I'm gonna explain.
No, I love it.
But maybe we can branch off from this part. So
yeah, I'll never stop you from talking about sci-fi again.
Okay, good. So so what happens eventually is after enough times of going in the door and coming back, being like, fuck that reality. Like it was like ashes everywhere because it was like a nuclear winter and they're like, fuck this. So they get back in the thing, right? But at a certain point, the woman's like, wait, do you realize what's going on here? Because they went into a specific reality where it was like a plague and like his wife was like dying. His son had already died and was like rotting upstairs. And because he kept trying to get back to his reality with his wife. That's what he was trying to do, right? But it would always be off or something would be terrible or whatever. And she was like, just before we went into that reality, into that door, you were talking about how like your fear of losing your wife and all this stuff. And she was like, I think whatever we're thinking and feeling right before we collapse and choose that door is influencing the reality we get on that side. And he's like, oh shit. So then what they start doing is once he realized that, he's like, okay, before we go through this time, I want us to write down exactly what we want to experience. So he like meticulously writing it down. He's trying to write out exactly what it is that he wants, right? To the point where he can get back to that particular reality that he wants to get to. It's a really cool book. He ends up getting back to the reality, which is like the correct one. And he knows because everything checks out, and his wife, and he knows because the guy's there that replaced him. So that was his past, his other self, right? The guy regretted the guy himself in the other timeline, the one who created this gigantic technology, who became like super famous and well-funded. He used it to switch places with the guy. Wow. That was why he ended up in that other timeline. The guy who was drugging him and kidnapping him was himself from the other timeline. He had regretted taking the path of being a famous scientist and supporting the child and all that stuff and not having his dream wife.
So
he wanted to go just step right in.
Just for anybody listening, it's like the guy at the very start of the story who kidnapped the main character was the main character from the main timeline.
It was it was the one he wished he was when he was having those regrets and stuff going to the bar. He was like, so but that guy basically came, and his justification, the other guy's justification was, I'm doing you a favor, buddy. Like, you didn't get to experience the life I've had, but he wanted to have the life that this other guy had, right? What were you saying, Jess?
Did he see him in that timeline then? Since he went back to the same timeline?
So when he finally was able to get back to the exact one, he was like outside his door, like at night, watching him talking to his wife. And he's like, that's the motherfucker who tricked me, right? And then he kind of looks over and he sees someone across the street, like looking, and he's like, oh shit, I gotta be careful. Like, somebody's gonna think I'm like some homeless person's like trying to break in or whatever, right? But what's so cool about the story is he realizes later the person that was watching him across the street was another version of himself who was also trying to get back to this timeline, because when he went into the box to try to get back, that branched off a whole bunch of realities of copies of himself, all branching off from that point.
From the starting point of trying to get back.
So there's all this army of himself trying to get back to the one to take the place. So they all start trying to fight each other to like be the one who gets to have the family, right?
Oh fuck.
But so I thought it was cool for a lot of reasons.
Wait, is that the end?
Well, I'll get to the end, but
okay.
But
okay.
that's like 90% of the book, right?
Yeah, dude, you've crushed it so far.
That's
so
a good book.
It's like 90% of the book. But part of the thing that really stood out was when I was reading it was that part where they're writing down what they want and how their emotional state influences that reality they're going to create, right? Because I mean, that's totally in line with what we talk about and everything. Of course, what's fascinating about it is what the story plays into is the idea that when you make a choice, literally all choices are made, and there's like all realities are actually existing versus you just chose one of the possible choices. That makes sense? Meaning that's one of the interpretations of quantum mechanics, is that literally every choice you make branches off, and there's like a infinite number of realities where I'm not having a banana, I'm having 2 apples or whatever instead of an apple and a banana. And there's another reality where I didn't even make that choice because when I was born, I died in a car accident, or, like there's infinite, and they all existing simultaneously. So what he was doing was accessing the different ones, not creating a new reality, if that makes sense, right? He was just going into another reality that was parallel to the other ones, right? So one of the things I thought was interesting, it was impulsing that idea rather than when you make a choice, you're making a choice. There is no alternatives that are being created. And so it was like, but what was interesting.
Wait. What's the difference? Like, why?
Meaning there's one reality, and in this moment, when you have a choice, let's say there's hypothetically an infinite number of choices you can make, which there aren't, but let's just say there were.
Mm-hmm.
You have to choose something.
Mm-hmm. And that doesn't create any alternatives.
And they're kind of playing into this, right? But what was cool about it is that it made the point, he was making the point that the guy who was successful was also him. And so he was saying that there was all these layers of him all throughout reality. And he was like, which one is me? He's like, they're all me. And so he was looking at himself as this collective of individuals rather than one individual. But when it came down to it, he was the one who wanted to experience his life with the wife and so forth, right?
Oh shit.
But what was also interesting, I was just thinking about before we started the podcast, was the point of how he still had this regret, even with the life that he wanted to get back to. He still had initially that regret of not going and being the famous scientist and all that stuff. And the other theme that it really played upon was his whole focus was wanting to get back to his wife and his son and have that life because he loved them and he wanted to spend time with them and experience life with them, to the point where, because they were being hunted, he had them get up and leave their life, because literally they were never going to be safe. There was always going to be somebody, like hundreds of people trying to find them that knew everything about him. Like, even if he tried to set a password, they'd be able to know what password he would set. You know what I mean? Like everything, right? So they were like, we have to get up and leave our lives. And they were like, yeah, it's fine. We'll do that. But it's like all of his decisions were purely from the starting point of, I want to experience that feeling of being safe and comfortable and with the person I'm meant to be with, and that experiencing that love with this. There was no higher purpose whatsoever within any part of it. So it's like when you're reading it, it's almost like that part was very boring to me. Because it's like, man, there's so much potential in these ideas in this book.
Right.
But it's like using it to justify why you should just seek your self-interest.
And your self-interest equals like having some job that you're unhappy with a family.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you have to make these choices. So it was like he was limiting himself to that point just so he could feel security.
The best reality that he can conceive of was one where he wasn't happy with with what he does for work.
But he felt some love and he had a kid. And like, that's the
best.
And see,
reality.
there's no context for what else is happening in reality or anything else, or there's no responsibility or anything. And I mean,
we could write our own science fiction books.
And you know what else?
That's why I read all of them. Huh?
You know what else is really interesting about that is that like the point that all of his alternate realities were willing to sabotage each other and himself to step into his position rather than taking responsibility within their own reality and creating that for themselves. You know?
Which is so fascinating, because the idea of the book is exploring the points of how we're creating reality. And yet within it, he's totally a victim to his feelings and his thoughts that are pre-programmed about the person he's supposed to be with and all these other things. So it's like taking this really cool point of like, we're creating stuff, but then dumbing it down to the point of you're literally just a victim to your circumstances. He's literally a victim to himself in his own thinking and so forth. The end of the book just ends up being him making that choice. And
which choice?
To stay with his family. And then he has to, he like tricks. He basically, there's like this chat service that he logs into. It's irrelevant how he finds it, but it's like all of the different guys chatting with each other, going, what? Who like, what are you guys doing? Like, quit fighting with each other, or like, we should do this, or we should. They're all like talking to each other, right? It was like because they realized like they had to like communicate with each other. But my point is, he goes
they can
in there,
get for that position or for some other stuff.
No, they're just trying to get that.
Get that guy.
This got really Rick and Morty on us. Like,
yeah. Well,
I was thinking this whole time.
Rick C-17.
He goes in there to say like, here's what we should do. Oh yeah. He goes, all he cares about is the safety of his wife and kid. So he's like, at the end of the day, if I have to sacrifice myself for their safety, I'll do it. So he tells them, look, we're going to do a lottery. Let's all meet up at the warehouse where we originally were, and we'll do a lottery. And he's like, there's every reason why it's not going to work. Some of you aren't even going to show up. You might think I have no reason to show up, or I'm just getting you there to kill you, whatever. He's like, whatever, you can believe what you want. I'm going to show up because that's who I am. I stick to my word. And that's the kind, maybe some of you wouldn't make the choice, but I'm going to, because it's who I am. So he's going to do that. Right. But then before he does it, he tells the wife he's going to do it. And she's like, are you fucking insane? I want you to stay. I don't want these other ones. I know you're the one. But imagine it was really cool, because she was like, she was dealing with this point of, wait, this whole time I've been fucking this other dude for like a month that I thought was you. and it is you, but it's not you. It's a different version of you. And it's like super confusing for her because she's like, there's 100 different yous out there right now. Which one am I supposed to love? You see what I mean? It was like all this fucking psychological stuff. And eventually
Dude, I would be eating that shit up so much a couple of years ago.
eventually she was like, you know, I don't want a lottery. I don't want some other rando. I want you to stay. Right. And so when she says that, and then what happened, they when they're out somewhere and then they get attacked. So he was like, oh, you fuckers weren't going to really do it anyways. So he ends up going there because some of them are there at the warehouse, even though some of them didn't show up and some of them attacked him. But he shows up with the wife and kid. And he's like, we're getting in the box. Fuck all of you. And they're kind of trying to block his way. But the wife's like, fuck all of you. I'm making my choice. If any of you don't like it, then you don't deserve me anyways. And then it ends with them just getting in the box together. And then that's kind of it. And I guess they're going to go create they let the son choose which door to open or some it's kind of cheesy, but so there's like a resolution to it, right?
Lollipops, unicorns and narwhals. The son got to choose.
Right. And so it was all about, it's like so many different themes and everything in there, but it's cool. When I read something, it's like, I'm looking for how deep does this really go? You know what I mean? And
What do you mean? How deep?
well, it's just like, you can have really cool ideas, but
how deep does the mechanism that they're using to, like,
how
tell
deep
the
does it
story?
go into, can you see like every book that's written is still from the starting point of just survival of self.
That's what you're talking about. Like
that's all it ever it is.
The survival point, how deep does that go?
There's literally no book that exists, no science fiction, nothing that deals with the principles we're talking about. It'll be fun.
Except virus-free mind is pretty good.
Yeah, but not like
science fiction.
Yeah.
But even virus-free mind has still got some limitation within it because it was part of the process. You know,
It was what?
part of a process, part of Bernard's process.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Definitely.
But in any case,
earlier days.
yeah.
Heaven's Journey to Life, though. That's
Okay. Now that.
Christian's
Yeah.
Journey to Life.
So when I
Oh
said that,
my
I meant like anything else.
Yeah,
Destiny.
yeah. I know.
Right,
I'm just
so-
saying for the listeners.
So it's
y'all-
up to us to create that stuff, isn't it?
Yeah, really.
There's no
You
other
know-
podcast talking about what people are talking about.
So the fascinating point is in sci-fi where you have unlimited creativity. There's no bounds by like implementation is going to be the problem.
Yeah.
The best that people can conceive of is not even.
It's
the best
still
that-
that's why we say that
that
your
observer-
imagination is still limited by
That
survival.
observer, when they sit down to write on their computer, however they write their book, it's like whatever their starting point is going into
Right.
it, that's just what's manifested, which theirs is clearly survival and limitation. He's probably writing that book so he can have his paycheck, so he can live his life with his family. But now they're all probably getting vaccinated and wearing a mask everywhere they go.
He's like, why did I make the choice to just be a book writer?
Right.
Wait, I'm going to justify why this is the best life for me. Here we go.
Yeah.
Wait, I'm going to let my son choose how to end the book. though.
That's funny. That's fascinating.
But if anybody is upset that I spoiled the book, he's got another book that I would recommend also reading, which I would say is
But before you read it, I'm going to spoil it for
equally.
you right now.
No, I'm not going to spoil that one. It's equally as good or better, just from the perspective of just entertaining book and so forth. And it's also got like a lot of really cool ideas in a similar kind of fashion. The one I was referring to is called Dark Matter by Blake Crouch. The other one he wrote though is called Recursion. And I read that one first before the Dark Matter one. And the Recursion one, I think actually might be better. It's a little actually more intense, to be honest. I don't know which one came first, but Recursion's also really good. But it's similar in the sense of talking about dealing with how do we create reality and how do we choose what we choose and so forth, right? And again, still you can see the limitation within the person of it's about feelings and emotions and self-definition based on just your memories and so forth, rather than any real principle, you know?
I
I'm
enjoyed
gonna-
that so much. I think we should.
Oh yeah.
We should spoil a sci-fi every podcast. That was
Yeah,
great.
dude.
Okay,
That
I'll
was
read.
so
Well,
fun.
I read about one a week. Actually, the one I'm reading right now probably will take me more than a week. It's like, and especially because I keep reading it at night mostly. So I'll read like 10 pages and then I'm already like nodding off.
Yeah.
So it's like as soon as I get that, I'm like, oh, dog here, close it up, because I don't want to like miss something, you know. But I'm reading this book called it's either called, I think it's called Other, it's either Other Land or Other World. I think it's Other Land by Tad Williams. Actually, Bruce recommended it to me, and it's
Oh
really good.
yeah.
It's
yeah.
dude, it's really good so
Okay.
far. I mean, it's like it of anything it reminds me the most of, it'd be like Neil Stevenson.
Oh fuck yeah.
Yeah.
Fuck yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty good. And actually part of it's set in South Africa, which is interesting. So but it's pretty good. And it was written in like 97, around the same time as or maybe a little bit after Snow Crash, Neil Stevenson, right?
Yeah,
Hey,
yeah.
Cam, what you said at the end of your description of the last book was interesting.
What?
The self-definition based on memories,
Mhm.
because that's such a profound statement. It's like all these people define who they are in this moment based on the past, based on something that isn't actually happening here in current reality. And so it's based on illusion. It's based on the fragmented like feelings and emotions and the image that they have left from whatever that memory is. And that's what their current reality is based on, which
Yeah.
means they literally are not here. They are not present. They aren't aware of everything that's going on. They're just constantly repeating those same memories over and over again. Because why do you think you go and talk to someone and you feel like they talk about the same damn thing every single time you see them? Why do you think people are just addicted to sports and stuff like that? Because it allows them to continue to repeat that same pattern. Maybe their parents watched sports a lot when they were young, or maybe it's dance, maybe it's singing, maybe it's art, maybe it's mathematics, like whatever it is, you know, whatever the memories are built on.
Remember when we were modeling here in Orlando and you were so nice to me, like I fell and you picked me up and you said it's okay, and like I was gonna cry, but you were there to comfort me, and I just always remember how nice you were back then, and now you're
That you stand for something, you're a fucking bitch, man. I freaking hate you now.
You're always
get
talking
that
about how
memory.
parents shouldn't lie to their kids and stuff. It's so
How
fucked
dare
up.
you say I shouldn't lie to my kids?
Who
You're
were
such
you?
a nice person and never challenge anything I ever said.
Oh, Jesus.
That
And
point you're
where's
making, though,
Jesus in all
Jess,
this? Because he's in all of our memories, but you ain't talking about Jesus in all your posts.
that point you're talking about is really interesting. Like if you look at back when I was describing the novel, how he's like, I got to get back to this woman. And I'm not saying like you shouldn't, if you're in a marriage, you shouldn't take that seriously and take responsibility. Like it shouldn't matter. But what I'm saying is from the context of why did you choose this person in the first place? And why, therefore, does he feel like this attachment to get back there and so forth, right? Given anything he could do. And it was based on, think about it, like, oh, he loved this woman because of this particular way she said something, or this particular thing she represented when he first met her, which is a memory based on something else that he didn't create within himself. So it's like you're following, like, here's a good example. I was recently playing with this music recording device thing I have, and it's like a sampler, right? And you can record samples, and then you can make beats and music and all kinds of stuff out of it, right? It's really popular, right? Anyways, I was just looking for stuff to sample for fun to see what I could do with it, and randomly I started sampling the theme song from when I was a kid from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Okay.
And for those of you listening, Cameron, when he said randomly, he put air quotes.
Yeah. Randomly meaning it's not random. I know that, but it might seem like a
It's
random
like
thing.
it's
to
like
sample.
in your
Might seem
in
random.
your-
Like what?
inside
Why
of
would you
you.
do that? But
Yeah.
anyways, I went back and I found the original theme song from like the cartoon when I was a kid, and I started sampling it. And then as I'm chopping up the sample or just trying to find something that I can do with it, I'm like listening to the chord the chord progression and the melody and everything, and I'm like, and I remember back when I was in college and just anytime I would make music, I would always be like trying to find this particular sound that was like somewhere within my subconscious or something that it's like something I'm always trying to get to. Or it's like, imagine you're an artist and you have this idea of something, you know, like you want to create, but you can never quite get it out, or it's like there somewhere. And when I was
that sounds like the most frustrating thing.
well, it's like whenever if I would make something, or if I would hear something that was similar to the sound, I would always know it. Like, oh yeah, that's kind of what I'm trying to get to. Well, it's funny because when I listened to the theme song for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, it's not that the whole song itself is the thing. It was just the certain chord progressions and everything. I'm like, oh, that's that progression I'm always trying to do. It's like
Holy
there's a
fuck.
particular sound. I'm like, that's what it is. And then I
Wow.
started listening to other things from that time period, and there's a similarity in like Transformers. It's kind of hard to describe if you're not a musical person, but there's a similarity in all of these themes.
Do it.
Well, how to describe it?
Yeah.
No, make the.
Well, I don't
make the
even know how to
notes.
describe
Just
it.
Make
just
the
do it,
notes.
period.
Just
Yeah.
I don't even know how to describe it. My point is, though, there is
Make the
a
sounds,
similarity.
dude.
with your mouth. Come on.
Make the sounds. Oh, dude, that was sick
Oh,
though.
that song. Yeah.
No,
That's
but
just
Definitely grew up. You
self-perfected.
definitely did not grow up in the early 90s. You're
Give
more
me the
like-
G.I. Joe.
right, G.I. Joe. There's this certain kind of sound. Anyways, my point is not to like I give a shit about it. Actually, it's just I noticed even that little seemingly insignificant point was just a memory. Like it's not like, oh, within me is this music that just wants to get out because it's from me and it's my soul. It's like, no, it's a fucking memory. My parents let me watch that TV show 1,000 fucking times when I was like my son's age. And it became like a little thing that's like it's just my vocabulary. It's like with the kids, anything that we do, even if they don't seem to show any interest in it right away, a week later they'll be doing it.
Yeah.
Like
That's so
we like to
fascinating.
listen to music, right? And we've been listening to Yellow Magic Orchestra, which is a Japanese group from like the 80s, electronic music. And at first, the kids didn't really seem to be interested in it when I would play it. And I don't force them to listen to stuff. I'm not like, no, you got to listen. It's like, they don't like it. They don't like it. It doesn't matter.
Imagine Cameron do that. That's so funny.
But my point is, I would like play it. And I would be like, do you guys want to hear Yellow Magic? Like if we were thinking about what we would listen to that day, I'd be like, you guys want to hear Yellow Magic Orchestra? And they would be like, no, let's listen to this. I'd be like, okay, cool. No problem. I'm not like, no, we got to listen to what I want to hear. But there might be a time when I'm listening to it or I'm choosing the music or whatever. Anyways, now it's like they want to listen to it a lot. And they're even dressing up in like a tie and like hats and stuff. And they're pretending like they're the different members and stuff. And yesterday we were making music together and I was showing them how to take one of the songs and recreate it on the music production system that we have. And we were creating it together.
We were talking on the phone. I was like, dude, are you at a concert? He's like,
Yeah, it was playing in the background, right? Because they were listening. So anyways, my point is that didn't just come from within them. It's because they're being exposed to it. Right? So you have to be specific and you have to look at, okay, what am I exposing the children to? Is this best? Is it harming them? Is it just fun? What's the context there and so forth? That's why they don't watch a lot of TV. Because I would say a lot of TV. We don't even have a TV, but that doesn't mean we don't ever watch anything. There's like some very specific things that we know what they are and so forth that the kids will watch from time to time. But we're not like, here's the TV, just go. Right? But I guess the point I was trying to get at is just that these memories that you're trying to live out, they're coming from your environment. They're not something unique within you. And the way that these, like that book, for example, it doesn't even address that point. It's just like taking the memories and the desires and the feelings for granted. It's just, it's literally defining himself as that's who he is. There's no questioning of it whatsoever. So like if you were going to read like a self-perfected novel, that would be the point of the novel, would be to get you to question these things. So it would maybe be cool and be interesting ideas and all this fun stuff. But the point of it would be to get the reader to think about things from a different perspective, to question every little thing that comes up and so forth.
Let's talk about that
So,
now.
It's
What's-
so funny. It's so funny to like hear people say, like it's a common thing for me to find people who post on Instagram and leave a description underneath their photo saying, these are my roots. I will always be this person because I grew up here.
Right.
This is who I am. This defines me. This is my life because what happened before this time. And it's like, what are you are literally trying to recreate the past every moment.
That's what culture is, right?
That's interesting because those same people will say like that they have free will, but that's a really deterministic point
Yeah.
of view, isn't it? Like, well,
Yeah.
no, just whatever my environment was, that's why I am, and that's what makes me unique. Like, wait, what? That doesn't
It's like,
even-
and then you have free choice on top of that,
Right.
or where's the free choice come into play?
yeah, that doesn't.
So like
actually-
your soul up in the heavens was literally a country boy. Like, what are you talking about? That's clearly from your environment.
There's this picture that Christina presented, like she's like laughing at it. It was like, because Christine's here, to give context.
Do you want to
she-
give your address while you're at it?
Yeah, real quick. I'll give you my credit card information too.
It's really nice. It's really nice new house Asif got,
They have a place.
Just like,
and
comment,
self-perfected TV.
subscribe,
They
like,
have
comment,
a
subscribe, and I'll put
Send us a direct message if you want Asif's address.
my credit card information.
Can't you sit 10 people at your dining room table?
Yeah.
The first 10 people to comment after this specific spot in the podcast will get an invite to Asif's table. Well, the first 8, because they have Asif and Milat.
You're gonna have to put a timestamp because that's the only way I know when you
Yeah.
commented.
So if you want to spot at Asif's
Oh,
table.
the comments are flooding in. I can see it.
I heard. Wait, also leave a comment. What food do you want Milat to make for your dinner?
Also, you probably have to live in the Providence, because if you don't live there, you'll
You
get in
can't
trouble trying to get there.
Yeah.
No, bro, you create
You
your own
won't let
reality.
you
What are you
in.
talking about?
Unless you can transport yourself there
Yeah.
via just,
Helicopter.
teleportation.
Or if you have like a box that
If you have
holds
a
in
box.
quantum
Or,
superposition.
or
And
if you're a
drugs.
wizard.
Oh, you guys want to know what's funny
Wizards
though?
can travel through chimneys. They've got that fireplace. You could always just travel through the chimney because you're a wizard.
There you go,
You
Santa
want
Claus.
to hear something funny?
Go.
So right before we started, I was checking this post, but earlier today I had put this post I said on Facebook. I said, when people talk about the best version of themselves, are they focused on how they feel or what they give? Right.
Mm.
And we can maybe talk about that later. But the point is, somebody wrote, best version of self cannot be defined by present current consciousness. You guys are going to love this next part. Use quantum superposition to get that answer.
Wow. Okay.
I think maybe that's why I started talking. Anyways, but look, that guy just wrote a whole book about using quantum superposition and all this stuff.
Yeah.
And he still isn't even questioning memories, who you are, etc.
You should listen
So-
to the podcast.
Quantum superposition is happening right now. In fact, I read another book about that one. I won't spoil that one right now. That'll be for the next podcast. I'll spoil that one.
next week.
It's like every book I'm reading lately is about some character doing quantum superposition. But it was about the fact that every time you collapse a reality, see, in their version, it wasn't like multiple realities. It was like when you collapse it, all the realities that were existing, you just murdered them.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
So in this book, it was like humans had some weird innate physiological thing in their brain that made them collapse the quantum superposition. But other beings in the universe didn't necessarily do that, and they could at all times live in all versions of reality at all times. Like it would be like you wouldn't even be able to understand it. So they had to build this bubble around our universe so we couldn't observe. It was like a shield. So we couldn't observe distant galaxies and collapse them, because it would be like literally murdering civilizations and stuff. So the whole book was about trying to figure out how to live in that.
That's cool because that uses that principle of like the wave particle versus the what is that? When you observe a particle going through a slot, right?
Mhm.
And how it can either be
Delayed choice quantum eraser. Like quantum
exactly.
Oh, he just brought up the quantum eraser.
That's
That's
no,
what
that's
we
exactly
Somebody's been doing their homework.
there you go. That's exactly what I was thinking of though. Because
Guys, we clearly made this podcast for ourselves.
But actually, they even in the first chapter of that specific book I was talking about, they bring up the delayed choice point. That
Yeah.
they're using that point exactly. Like, so
Yeah.
they're saying you could erase the information and so forth through it. But
So for those of you who don't know delayed choice,
oh boy,
I'll just give you the practicality of it as it relates to what we're doing.
yeah.
Doing self-forgiveness, and this is based off science, right? And this was actually really fascinating because if you actually in Destiny, one of the principles is investigate all things and keep that which is good. And the reason why that's so important is because one of the in sales or communication or sharing something with somebody, you have to be certain. And the only way you can be certain is if you've investigated all things. Because if somebody brings information to you that you haven't considered for yourself, you either have to be very adaptable, which is using your technotutor over a long period of time so that your natural learning ability understands what somebody's saying immediately and can process it and then respond to them. But that takes time to build. And unless you're specifically developing your communication ability in something that's really important to you, where you're what you do for work is actually based off what you stand for. Because everybody in this world, what they stand for within themselves is not being reflected in their work and what they do to make money. So that's the difference between what we do and
You know what, too? What is the average person who is selling you on some kind of self-improvement thing, telling you like they have the answer to changing and growing and all that stuff? That person, the only thing they've become better at is just marketing themselves. Like they didn't actually change in any other area. So it's like when somebody would maybe present something to me as a counter to what we're doing, there wouldn't be any doubt within myself because I've seen it for myself. Versus,
but you have the ability to see that point,
right? But it's like if someone's asking you, we were talking about this earlier. It's like if someone's asking you, well, how do you figure that's the case, or how do you know that? What does that imply?
They don't know.
They don't know. Otherwise, they wouldn't be asking that.
Yeah.
They wouldn't be asking that. In fact, I was going to tell you all about this other thing I got from this guy on Facebook, a messenger. He said to me, hey, Cameron, I'm a missionary living here in the Houston area. Facebook has been a cool way to meet more people and study Christ with them. Could I ask you a question? And I already knew that was coming because he had sent me a friend request. I'd accepted it. I saw the only mutual friend we had was someone else who was a Mormon. So I knew what was coming. So I said, what's up? He said, thanks for the response. If you're comfortable with answering, has there been any ways that you've seen Christ's hand in your life during this past crazy year? So y'all want to hear what I said?
Yes.
So I'm kind of like,
You're projecting that I had a crazy year. My year was great. Thanks.
no. Here's what I said. I said, Jesus was a being just like you and I. He came to earth to remind us, and this goes back to what we were talking about earlier, what Jess was bringing up. He came to earth to remind us that we are trapped within pictures and ideas of who we are. We forgot that we are gods. He shared principles and was crucified because people did not want to face what they were accepting and allowing here on earth as a reflection of who we are. Only by each of us standing up within complete self-responsibility for what we accept and allow and create a system that's best for all, can we truly live the message that Jesus was sharing. Most people corrupt Jesus's message to suit their self-interest because they are just afraid of dying. I'm not. So I don't need his hand. I offer mine instead. Woo. So then after a little bit, he responded, that's very interesting. If you don't mind, I'd love to learn more. Have you studied religion for a while? And I thought, this guy's got some good technique, man. He's got some training. You see how he was like, yeah, that's cool. Yeah, let me ask you another question.
Yeah.
So I'm like, he's got some training here, right?
Yeah. Is Jordan Belfort a Mormon?
So I just said, not really. What about what I said makes you want to learn more? And then he hasn't responded.
Oh, got him.
Right.
Ooh.
Nice.
But it was just cool because I'm like, I don't know this person, but am I worried? Okay, think about the people who are like, you're just trying to sell me something. I fucking know this guy is trying to sell me on joining his religion. I understand that. Am I afraid of that?
No.
Because within me, there's only two options. He's either going to fucking hate me or he's going to be like, wow, thank you for helping me see that what I was believing was bullshit. And all that certainty, all of that, everything I was putting into this, that I was just suppressing all the doubt. Like I can apply that within what you're doing. And you actually have the thing that I'm actually searching for within this. But
That
this is at
brings-
least a person who's willing to go out and get other people to agree with him and join.
That brings up 2 points. One, the point of, okay, not being afraid to be manipulated or not feeling any type of ways of someone who's obviously trying to manipulate you. I'd like to hit on that some more. But then the other thing is having that certainty of being okay with being hated. I really like I see that as being very relevant to everyone, because especially for myself though, you know, of wanting others to like me and things like that. And we kind of talked about this on the last podcast about conforming to what society wants, right? But you are someone who's definitely lived not giving a fuck about what other people think of you.
To a degree.
So all I see that is certainty and unattachment to feeling good. That's really all it is.
Yeah,
because
I agree with that.
if you're attached to feeling good, of course you're gonna sacrifice what you're certain about just to make sure that you still feel good.
Yeah.
Where if you're certain and you don't give a fuck about feeling good,
Okay.
then it doesn't matter if someone likes you or
It's-
not, because
yeah.
She's spelling it out. Okay.
It's like, I want to feel good just like anybody else does. But like you said, I'm not going to sacrifice not my certainty. I'm not going to sacrifice my principles in order to feel. So it's the non-attachment, like you're saying.
you're
Even
not
though-
compromising.
Even though that doesn't mean I don't like feeling good.
Mhm.
But
Exactly.
the thing that goes along with certainty is I'm not just certain, because here's the difference. The certainty, I don't know if it's a difference, but the certainty I have within what we're doing is not just certainty within what we're doing. It's certainty that there's no choice in the matter. So it's like, I'll break down how I experience a challenge or a conflict. Okay. Something occurs that I wasn't expecting, or something occurs that I don't want to happen. I feel an immediate energy in myself of like, ugh, like
You
this.
move a water pump, right? For example, or
What?
you move a water pump too early or something like that.
Oh yeah, I just spent $5,000 moving a pump. I don't need to move. But in any case, so I feel that immediate, ugh, right? And then within that, it's like, okay, what am I worried about happening? What am I concerned about? What's the worst case scenario here? Am I gonna in this moment, whatever I'm thinking about doing, is it because I just don't want this thing to happen? I don't want this feeling. I'm feeling bad. Is it somehow influenced by that? Or am I actually looking at what will be best here? And when I start looking at that, then I start looking at what I should do. And it's like, that's making me feel worse. But then I'm in some cases, right? And then I'm like, and if that happens, I'm like, well, but if I choose not to do it now, because in this particular case, I can see that this is the correct course of action. But along with this particular course of action, in this particular case, it's not going to feel good. So now I have a choice. I can choose to not do what I can see is best so that I don't have to face this thing I'm feeling. But what's the consequence of that? I know, common sense, I'm still going to manifest the thing I don't want anyways.
Yes.
Because my starting point is not wanting to face something. That's
Yes.
why this is happening in the first place.
Yes.
So that's step one. And then also, am I going to allow myself to be directed by my feelings? Am I going to allow it right now or not? Because if I'm going to, I might as well give up. What's the point of that?
Ooh, kill it.
So I really hold myself to, I can't allow myself to do that. Right? I go to my techno tutor and then I program myself with, this is what I want to do. Until I want to do it. And there might still be that little part of, it doesn't feel good, but that I don't worry about that. That part's not so important. The point is I'm clear. This is what I want to do. This is what I need. There's no more doubt anymore about the decision.
And honestly, the satisfaction of knowing that you've overcome the thing that comes natural to you, and you had to like exercise your will, your personal directive principle, feels fucking amazing.
And see how that's the
true.
total opposite of the I am my
Just
my
do what-
roots,
just do
my
it.
this and that. Like it's who I am. It's like no question all that, challenge all that shit.
It's funny because people say, I do, what I feel in the moment. I base everything off my feelings. And, I can see microcosms of that in my past as well. Like with doing the dishes. You never feel like doing the dishes. You can't tell me you feel like doing the dishes. Okay. So even up through recently, I still felt that minute reaction the moment that I saw the dishes, knowing I needed to do it. But it's been so cool to just breathe, put it in my techno tutor, and just fucking do the dishes.
Yeah.
Like just do the fucking dishes. Stop reacting to the dishes. Stop ignoring that they're there. Stop feeling shitty about doing it as you're doing it. Just be present with the fact that you're doing it, breathe. And it's great because it creates space for you to not have to think about what you're doing next. You don't have to think about what you did before. You can just literally be there doing the dishes. You don't have to think about anything else. Just focus on the dishes. It's great.
Yeah, it's a really good point.
Yeah. And if we carried those principles, like that specific point, into everything, into making sure people were fed, into making sure people have proper education, into making sure people have proper parenting and so forth, everything would be different. But again, that what you're talking about right there, that little point, you can apply that in a big scale or the tiny scale, like doing the dishes. That's changing human nature. You see, and so that's the part that when we talk about change, we focus a lot about changing the system. But no matter what changes we make to the system, if they're not from the starting point of I'm changing myself and I'm living from principles, those changes won't actually ever end up mattering because they'll always be from the outside.
So from that specific point of changing yourself, I think it'd be fun to loop back to the delayed choice thing. And I know it sounds like really out there, but it also relates back to Dark Matter was the name of the book that you're talking about?
The first one that I talked about, yeah.
Yeah, because there's a particular point in there, and I find it's played around in a lot of like TV shows and stuff like that, of there's alternate realities. And I remember being younger and being like, oh man, I wish I could jump to alternate realities, right? But it's like the choice that you make doesn't create an alternate reality. And as that you can access from the perspective of like, there's not something that you could just be like, oh, now I've jumped into the life of, I chose to be with that person from high school, or I chose to go down this path. And the reason why
but people are trying to think that they can. That's why in any moment they can change their sexuality, they can change their gender, they can change what they identify as. It's like people are projecting that they can actually change into an alternate reality at any moment and at any time because they view reality as subjective. And it's the image in their mind that they get to create in physical reality. But you can't actually do that because that image is imaginary. It's fake.
When you don't, well, Cameron, were you gonna say something?
Well, just on that point, like, it's funny because people who think that reality is subjective are actually the most at effect to their reality, even within that point. It's like they're literally just, I'm experiencing a computer simulation.
That's why they have to believe reality is subjective, because
But their whole point is, let's change the computer simulation. Let's change the rules so that we create something.
But not change myself and change the reality that I'm subjectively creating. And I wanted to throw in there too, back to what you were saying, Asif, we're the manifestate, our choices are the manifestation of who we are. So it's like we think if I could just make this choice, I would get this reality, but the choice is the manifestation of who you are. So you can't make this other choice. You can only make the choice that's equal to who you are. So if who you are isn't changing, and then suddenly you want to jump to a different reality with different things, so somebody might say, well, you're not a physicist. You don't know what the realities are and all this stuff. It doesn't matter. because who you are is not changing in this equation. So none of the other stuff matters.
Right.
I have like a really good fucking theme to follow, like as we are right now. If you guys are cool with that.
Okay, hang on. Just an analogy for what Cam just said, because that made a lot of sense to me. That's like taking a bad seed and planting it in good
Nice.
soil. You know, like it doesn't matter. Okay, yeah, the grass is green over there, whatever the fuck it is, right?
It's gonna make the seed just express itself better and faster.
Right. But the seed still sucks. It's a bad seed. You know?
Yeah, it's like if you were a gardener and you made a perfect soil and you've been composting this thing for like 10 years,
You got the
and you
best
got all this perfect soil, you tilled, you got all the weeds out and everything, and somebody was like, I got this seed that's fucking bad, however you want to frame it. It's
Yeah.
gonna make weak this, or it's gonna be whatever it is. It's like not.
You want apples? I got a mango seed.
It's a weed. It's the fucking weeds. I just fucking spent all
Or
this
it's-
time getting
it's
out of here.
Within the code of that seed, it's gonna be like diseased and it's gonna choke out everything else, whatever it is. Would you put that in your garden?
Fuck no.
So why the fuck would God take you and put you in heaven? It just doesn't make sense. This is what we're trying to say. It's like, doesn't matter if there's a God in a heaven or not. You don't belong there.
That's
You don't even, you're not even taking responsibility for this, for what's here.
So this idea, and this is so perfect. This is so perfect. The positive thinking. It's the idea that if I have a thought in my mind, that's gonna create my life. If the thought is at the forefront of my mind, if I'm thinking it, right, then that's gonna affect me. That's going to, right? But let's go through a little experiment, right? Okay, everybody close your eyes. Close your eyes. Direct your attention to the headphones on your ears. And Mitchell, keep your fucking eyes closed, dude. Direct your attention to the glasses on your ears or the headphones on your ears, right? Direct your attention to the hat on your head, the shirt on your shoulders. Direct your attention to your butt on the chair, feet on the ground. Okay, open your eyes. So the way you experience that is like when we're talking, you're not aware of that information. But when you direct your attention there, you experience it, right? Just because you're not thinking a thought doesn't mean that information isn't inside of you.
Say it again. Say it again.
In the same way that the way you're sitting on your chair or whatever you're doing right now, listening to this podcast, direct your attention to something else. You're walking, okay, feel the fabric of, your shirt on your shoulders or your feet in your shoes. It's like, if you direct your attention somewhere else, you weren't paying attention to that before. So you weren't taking in that information. So when you're thinking, Drake's getting some fucking spell blue balls.
Fucking yes. This is like some real fucking shit right here, because like you started it off, all these positive thinkers, they think, oh, well, I just turn my attention to this now. And now I don't think about that. You're still wearing clothes. You didn't all of a sudden just become naked just because you don't think about your fucking clothes.
You're like, right? I'm going to imagine myself standing up. It's like your ass is still in the chair.
Exactly.
Okay, that's perfect example. You don't have to think about where food is going to come from. You focus your attention on the job you have, making money, and then you go to the store and this food is there. You didn't create that.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Bring that back to thoughts. Bring that back to thoughts, because that's automated. That's happening already.
Yes.
You just go on your app on your phone and food gets delivered to your home, or you just go to the store or whatever, or you're a fucking child and there's food on the table every fucking day, right? You don't have to think about that. It still comes up automatically.
In the same way that the person in the environment where there's not a lot of food or there's famine or poverty, that's an automated environment for them too. They're not creating it by their conscious positive attention.
Right.
So this is what it means when you are associating who you are with some feeling that you're having. You're equating who you are to like 0.01% of you. Because what is an emotion physiologically represented in your body? When you get that gut feeling, right? Everybody says, follow your gut feeling. But that is just an electrical impulse that's being amplified times 4 that you're feeling in your gut. And you're saying that electrical impulse is who you are. But if you just look at the totality of your body, that is like 0.01% of who you are. So in other words, you're just directing your attention to that electric experience or the energetic experience, and you're saying, that's who I am. So, Drake, what?
That's like looking at your computer screen and just the lights that come on. That's what your computer is. Like that's like, but there's so many other processes that go on behind that actually make that even possible. And yes, that's what you're interacting with and what you're seeing, and like what you're seeing the value from through the lights that are coming out through these different pixels. But that's not what the computer is. The computer is not the pixels. It's like everything behind the pixels. And so if you wanted to actually change something about what you're seeing on the screen or about what your computer can do, you would have to go into the hard drive and change that. Man, that's like,
Can we look at that point about the gut feeling for a moment? Go into that a little bit, because I've been to, like when I was younger, like seminars and stuff where people are like, you got to develop that trust of that gut feeling.
yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like the problem is the person who is successful in the system can justify that their gut feeling is always right because they've had success in the system. So they can say that person who's not successful is just because they don't trust their gut instincts. But
how about this? I'd like to run through a little more theory, like another little experiment.
Okay.
That will put that into context. So, when we were directing our attention around our bodies, what do you think's like for you to become aware of your butt on the chair? What's happening inside of you physiologically? Like, what is going on so that you are now like acutely aware of like, okay, I feel the watch on my hand, around my wrist. What's happening inside of you physiologically?
Other than just turning your
answers?
attention.
What does that look like? How is that represented physiologically? Right.
That's a good
any
question.
answers? Just like throw it around, because that will be the answers that people would give who are listening.
Yeah, like your being or awareness is like focusing. So I don't know, maybe you have more electrical activity just starts to accumulate there, something like that.
Yeah, something with your nerves, or like maybe because you're turning your attention there, like you're applying pressure there. I don't know, like under your skin. I don't know.
But all it really is like on your computer, like the information of your spreadsheets is there, but you're not looking at it until you tell it, pull that up, and then it's there in your awareness. But now you're not looking at something else.
Right.
Right. Because here's a perfect example. Okay, I want to do an experiment, and then you can do one. Okay. I don't know if maybe this is what you were gonna do. Okay, so let's do another one. Okay, close your eyes. Okay. Focus on your toes. Like wiggle your toes, okay, and focus on it. And if you're listening to the podcast, do it. Focus on your toes and wiggle them, okay? Now, focus on your nose. You can even wiggle your nose a little bit, okay? Okay, you feel it, right? You guys feel the difference, right? Now, focus on your toes and your nose at the same time with equal amounts, just like before. Okay? And while you're focusing on that, also focus on your stomach. Okay, stop. Were you able to actually do it? Like all three at the same time? Equally?
This is how I did it. I was like, I said the word in my mind. I said toes, and then I said nose, and then I said stomach, and then I just moved all three at the same time, and I just said toes, no stomach, toes, stomach, toes, no stomach.
That's really kind of how I noticed it.
Because I'm trying to do it right now, and it's like I can kind of feel myself. I'm moving all of them. That's not hard to do. I can move all of them. That's not even the question.
Yeah.
But the awareness
wasn't there,
but you kind of have to go back and forth quickly. Like
back and forth. Yeah.
now,
Like
could you train yourself to get all three at the same time? Perhaps, probably.
Just
Okay.
like breathe out and breathe in at the same time.
But to the person who says, "Oh, I can do that. I can get all three." Okay, now let's do another experiment. Okay, hypothetically. Okay, so this is for that person who's like, "I can do all three, and I can have perfect awareness of both." Okay, ready? Here we go. Okay, close your eyes. Okay, let's just jump into it. Focus yourself on every single atom of your body. Okay, you can stop. You can't do it.
No, man, I felt it. I felt like the connection.
And you can say, "Yeah, but I can't see the atoms of my body." You can't see your fucking stomach either. It's actually just as hidden to your consciousness as your atoms are. And if you can't feel your atoms, what are you feeling in your stomach then? Isn't it made of atoms? Like, what do you actually? So you can't. My whole point was that'd be like trying to access all the information on your computer all at one time. You can't. It's going to be like, what's going to happen when you pull up all those tabs?
Slow down.
crash.
Right.
So
handle
your
all the
conscious
information.
awareness is not who you are.
Hmm.
It's just an interface. They interfacing with the information that's in your body. That's all it is.
That is beautifully said because
Spells.
yes, I agree. Beautifully. Because your body's doing all these processes right now because, you know, we were listening to Cameron as we were directing our awareness. But imagine who you were was actually who you thought you were of your awareness.
But then who's breathing right now?
Exactly.
Or what's making your heart beat?
How are you
Right.
listening to this at the same
your
time
DNA
as driving
replicating.
or whatever, right? So this,
Or the viruses circulating all throughout your body.
exactly, right? Bunch of viruses inside of you, going to work, going to town, right? Bacteria and all that stuff. So going back to the point of
My novel would be called Novel Coronavirus.
that's good.
Yeah.
That's
All right.
good.
Not really.
Yeah, but hey, so I made this post the other day, just real quick. I just made the statement of you have programming from your first.
I don't like
7
it. I don't like it. Take it. Get that off.
and it's playing out everywhere in your life.
Wait.
Reality.
What did it say?
It said you were programmed in the first 7 years of your life, and now that plays out everywhere. And so for all you people who go, yeah, well, that's why I do this meditation technique and I do this thing and I do conscious repatterning and all this shit. That's like you taking on your computer screen, you're like moving around, you like open up Zoom and you open up Spotify and you're like dragging them around and shuffling the songs. And maybe you play a different song. You're like, yeah, I'm changing the hardware in my computer. It's like, no, you're delusional. But that's literally how your mind and your body work. So you thinking, oh, I'm conscious. I'm even changing my subconscious. I did binaural beats when I was sleeping. I listened to Kevin Trudeau at 3 a.m. It's like,
Hold on.
congrats.
Let's talk about the binaural beats. Like, let's talk about the binaural beats. How does someone expect
Theta.
that listening to
They
that
don't-
changes who you are?
Well, Cameron, because you're a vibration and you're changing the vibration.
But do you see all of this? All of this is acting like you're a victim to your programming.
Yeah.
All of it is acting like it's not you who needs to change. It's just your programming who needs to
All
change
right, let's-
only.
Just
Let's
the
go in there.
person who's posting the binaural beats.
There's
They have
no
to write
difference.
the right one.
There's no difference between the person who is religious, who believes they're guilty, and therefore they need forgiveness from Jesus. There's no difference between that person and the person who is like, I reject religion because it just tries to tell you you're guilty. Because both of you think that who you are doesn't need to change.
But my astrology or my horoscope says this. That's why I'm not going to go outside today because, right?
What does it say after? What does your horoscope
It's a
say?
horoscope.
Oh shit, dude.
Or you're a whore to the
That's gonna be your book.
Horoscope.
Wait, is this one spelled with a W?
W. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm missing something.
Drake, what was that point? You said go into that. I'm trying to think of what that just was.
Oh no, it was just the point of fuck. It
Yeah,
was the
fuck.
the point of you thinking that people in religion are they're programmed and you're just a victim of your programming. And so they're thinking, okay, if I just get these binaural beats, then I can change my programming and then I'll be different. I want to go into that because I know, especially people who are coming into self-perfected, they're seeing that point of like, you know, obviously I'm a resultant of my environment, you know, I'm a result of my environment rather, right? And so just that point of you
It's
need
true.
to change. Yeah.
Well, okay. It's like here's the key. Here's the key. The programming that you're now a result of, who created the programming?
The system.
No.
You did.
The system is a manifestation of who you are and have always been. So the programming is a way of reality giving back to you who you are saying you are. Because if within who you truly were one and equal to reality and you accepted that, you wouldn't even allow yourself to be programmed.
Here's what I would have
You would
said.
just be directing reality one and equal. You wouldn't need any programming. But the
Here's
fact
what
that you accepted programming in the first place. See, but it's a manifest. That doesn't mean you can be born as a baby and just not accept programming. It's a manifested consequence at this point. But the point is we've created consequences. That's what a consequence means. It's something we have to deal with now. But it's a manifestation of who we are and who we've been and the choices we've made over time. So no one has the right now to be like, well, it's not fair. It's just my programming. It's like, you're here to change who you are. And part of that is also changing your programming, because that would be a reflection of the fact that you're changing who you are. Otherwise, you wouldn't accept your programming to be the way it is. You can't, at this point, change that you need to be programmed. If someone says, well, I'm not going to be programmed, well, then every cell in your body is just going to fall apart, because it's all running on programs. That's not the question. The question is, are you going to now direct all of your programming so that it's best for everybody or not? That's the real test of whether you've changed. Is, are you going to self-direct your programming to be best within the context of the limitations that exist right now? Because if you're not even at that point, if you're still just doing binaural beats, it's probably because you're like depressed, or you don't have what you want and you don't know how to get it. Seriously, if you think listening to binaural beats is going to change your reality, like, what do you think you are? What is it that you actually think you are and exist as? If you think listening to something at a certain frequency, oh, it's going to make your brain operate into a different frequency. Okay. And that's going to do what?
make
Make
it so that
everything
I
feel
match
good.
with the frequencies that I want.
But why do you want theta frequency?
Because that's
I'm gonna
that's
feel love,
creator.
man.
That's creator frequency.
That's the frequency of the creator.
That's right.
But so the creator doesn't, so alpha frequencies, beta frequencies, that's not creators. There's no creators. The creator doesn't do that. So that's separate from the creator.
Mhm. It's
That's
like
just a whole nother
it's like
dimension of reality that's totally separate from creator. Like, it's all the same fucking thing, spectrum. If you're listening to binaural beats, you're literally autistic. Because you're literally just trying to change yourself where you are on the spectrum. That's all it is.
Oh fuck. Oh, spells. Yeah.
Or you're gender fluid.
That's that point of how people like
Now, oh, real quick. It's okay if you want to listen to binaural beats. Like, I'm not saying you can't listen to binaural beats, but seriously, don't think that it's doing anything. Don't lie to yourself. Like, because you're listening to binaural beats, you're doing a fucking thing about anything in this world or changing who you are. If you think a binaural beat can change who you are, what does that mean?
You're
You're
not
at
willing to
effect
take responsibility.
Like, when you're in a moment of decision, the binaural beats are someone going to kick in. Like, no, like, you have to change who you are, change what you actually want and what you care about, what matters.
the point of that I find funny is how people are trying to like ascend to higher vibrations. And I think I made this point a long time ago, but it's just relevant now. Of if you look at like a radio station, is 104.8 better than 101.9 because it's a higher frequency?
Right. Why is it higher means better?
Exactly.
Right.
So-
because higher bank account means better, right?
Right, exactly.
Oh no,
Because
I don't care about money. I'm just ascending to a higher frequency. Well, but that is a higher frequency. Like, you have less money coming to your bank account, so you're less frequency.
Hmm.
Well, it's a different type of frequency. No, the frequency is frequency. So it should be all frequencies. You should be higher, right?
Hmm.
Not just the ones that
it's who
you can
you're
easily
talking about
manipulate in your
are.
mind, not based on measurable
He's gonna
reality.
feel a higher frequency
Right.
than to figure out how to make more money.
But the people who say they are higher and feeling all this stuff, they're lying. They don't feel that way all the time. It's most of the time they don't feel good, and I know they're lying.
Mhm.
And they'll get mad at me for saying it, which proves me right.
You're right, sure.
Like, if I say something and you get pissed off or you try to argue with me, that hopefully that should be some self-honest point for you to be like, oh fuck, I'm lying to myself. It doesn't affect me. Like, in the sense, you can convince me that you're positive because you're angry about something I said.
Yeah, right.
It's not going to change what I'm thinking or doing. The fact that you're deluding yourself. I mean, it affects me. But what I'm saying is it's not going to suddenly
change what you're going after.
like the fact that you're not positive, by you getting angry about me saying you're not positive is going to make you positive. That's not going to happen. You're just trying to trick yourself.
Mm-hmm. And that's why they're angry, right? And I know exactly what you're talking about because I was just talking to somebody a bit ago that was like, don't get me wrong, we're totally happy, we're totally great, we're grateful for everything, but it's just being grateful doesn't pay the bills. So it's like, how do you feel when you're going to pay the bills and you can barely afford it?
Okay, I mean, what does it mean when someone's grateful? Okay, like if, for example, you bought someone a dinner and they were like, what? Just the average person, if you wanted them to be grateful, what would you mean by that? Like if you bought your kid a gift, and if you said you're not grateful versus you are grateful, what would be the way they're measuring that?
I think just looking at their emotion, their feeling.
Okay, I'm not
like
trying to. I'm saying the actual, huh?
Like they're saying like, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So in some way, they're like acknowledging it or giving something back, right? So how do you express gratitude for being alive?
Oh, kill 'em.
By thanking God every Sunday.
No. You have to do it before every meal.
Oh, yeah.
But do you see how gratitude becomes this? Gratitude is me enjoying what I was given. That's not gratitude.
Gratitude is like paying taxes on your time, where you spend all your time doing what you want, and then like for this little piece of time, I pay my taxes to like, oh, thank you for the starving children, thank you for God, thank you for all.
You're like, please don't take it away.
If somebody I'm just gonna make something up. Like if somebody came and gave me $1 million, okay, and then I took that $1 million and I did what I'm going to do with it, which is I would apply it in a way that's best for all. Okay. This person over here says, you never said thank you for that gift. So you're so ungrateful. And it's like, no, I fucking did what needed to be done with it. That was best for me and you and everybody else that I could do with it. That's being grateful. Now, could I say thank you? I could. That's not the issue. But the point is, the gratitude is not in their feeling that I appreciated it. It's not in my feeling of appreciating it. It's in what am I doing with it. That's whether you're grateful. You see, it's a measurable thing. It's not a internal feeling thing. So what does it mean if someone's grateful for life? If we say stop being greedy, start being grateful, what do we mean? Grateful means you should sit and feel grateful. No, you need to do what's best. And if you're not grateful. Because if you were grateful, that's what you'd be doing. You'd be doing what's best because you've been given life that you didn't create yourself. It's been given to you. So how do you express and live gratitude for that?
That's why to know and not to do is not to know. That concept is saying it's the living word or nothing.
If you receive life and then you're like, I just need to protect this and I want to do things that secure my survival and I don't want to feel bad ever because I want to experience only good things. That's not being grateful. That's being greedy.
You just want to accumulate.
You've been given life so you can be here and do what's best. This is the only reason you've been given it. And you say, well, I don't have to do that. Well, at the end of your life, you're in for a rude awakening. You're in for a wake-up call because you just manifested your consequence. So you can't say, I didn't tell you. Like, imagine if you could just fast forward to that point right now. You're at the end of your life and you realize in that moment, oh, I was supposed to do what was best, but because I didn't, I don't get any more life. What, you think the reality is just going to be like, you know what? You're a greedy fuck. All you care about is yourself and how you feel. We're going to give you more life. We, meaning you, meaning all of reality collectively. If you were the rest of reality and there was some greedy fucker saying, I'm just going to go around and do whatever the fuck I want. I don't care. It's about what I feel. What would you do?
Sever.
Would you be like, sure, buddy, go ahead.
Sever.
And you can have the most spiritual fucking person on earth. if some greedy dude came into your house and was like, I want to eat all your food, piss and shit on your floor, and rape your daughter, would you be like, hey, bro, just create your own reality, like whatever you want, bro, like whatever?
You know,
No, you'd be like, get the fuck out, I'm calling the police, or whatever you need to do. You wouldn't accept it.
you know what else? We do this with our own bodies. Like if a part of your body is overgrowing to an extent that it's taking from the rest of your body that it shouldn't be doing, you cut it out.
Mm.
We call that cancer, right?
Mm.
Even if you have like a fucking wart on your finger and it starts growing, you get that shit removed.
Good
You
point.
know? It's like we don't accept that within our own bodies. Why would life accept that
See,
from us?
it's like, it's not that human beings in and of themselves are cancer. It's the beings inhabiting the bodies. We're not saying humanity is a virus. We're saying the reason why you're experiencing yourself right now as a human is to give yourself the opportunity to stand up within the most, from a perspective of form, most physically capable of molding reality into anything, more than a tree, right? More than a beetle. An ant can't really change reality in terms of how it's walking around and moving. We physically can, right? We can create
Wait,
buildings.
you don't know who Mr. Global is.
Is an
you know-
ant
Yeah.
Mr. Global? But you see what I'm saying? It's an opportunity for you to be here and to show, given all this opportunity, what would I do with it? Will I be greedy? Because, hey, this body allows me to feel all kinds of amazing things. Or will you actually take the responsibility seriously? And the reality is you don't have to sacrifice. You can still experience a lot of really cool stuff. But it has to be within balance, doesn't it?
I experience cool stuff every time I go to the park with Teddy.
Right.
So cool. So today we were walking along and we just got to the entrance of the park where I'd snapped a picture yesterday of an empty eggshell from one of the ducks. So one of the ducklings had been born through this eggshell.
Teddy just
But-
had some breakfast.
Yesterday he left
Poor
it
duck.
alone. He left it alone though.
For those who don't know, Teddy's our dog, by the way.
Okay. So
They think you have like a 3-year-old that's just like tearing into like eggshells in the park or something.
Okay, the duckling had been born, the shell was empty, but it was like, it left a very small hole in this egg and the rest of it was still full. So either the duck left or something had like got it out. I don't know.
Like slurped it up.
But it looked like a full egg. So I like turned it over and I was like, oh, it's empty. And then we just kept going yesterday. But today along that corner, I was walking in front of him a little bit and he was lingering behind and he grabbed that eggshell and I was walking ahead and then I heard this like crunch and I was like, he found that eggshell. And then I was like, yo, Ted, come here, drop that. And he just dropped it and we just kept walking. And then we got to the playground area and he loves to climb on the playground area. Okay. So he's climbing up and he climbs up the stairs and he always just climbs right back down. But there's this one bridge that goes to the other part of the equipment that he never crosses because it's slightly angled down. And I think he's just kind of afraid of it. And so today I put a bunch of treats all along the bridge to try and get him to go across. And he wouldn't go across going down at an angle, but I figured out he'd go up. So he now learned how to go across the bridge at the playground today, which was so cool. And so we're just doing all this stuff. And then we sat on the swing for accessible people who are like paralyzed or in a wheelchair or something. It's like a full-on seat of a chair.
Okay.
So we're sitting in that and I had him in my lap and we were just sitting there swinging together and he was checking out everything. It was so great. And then he pooped and he had a really good poop and it was in the middle of the wood chips at the playground.
Not on your lap.
No, luckily it wasn't on my lap. And then it's super easy to clean up because it was in the wood chips. So the wood chips like stuck to it. So it was like it was no poop left after I cleaned it up. So like no kids are gonna get into it. It was so cool because this whole time I'm just sitting there walking around with him, being present with him and enjoying being there at the park. You know, I'm not in my head thinking about what am I gonna do next?
Gonna get back
What
to work.
time is it? Yeah, like all this stuff. It's like, no, I can just literally be here with him, experiencing the park with him in physical reality, which was great. It was so fun. And I'm sitting there and I'm like talking to him about the whole situation. You know what I mean? Like, oh, are you sniffing for your treats? Oh, your treat. There was a couple that fell under here. Let's go find him. And I go find him with them because he can't quite see and differentiate between the treat and the wood chips. So I just go over there, find him for him, but he can smell them. So, he's going under there and I'm like, oh, it's right here. It's right here. So then he'd eat it. And, it's just like, it's so cool to be present with him and like be aware of what he's paying attention to, like what he's focused on, like why he's going the places he's going. And if you're lost in your mind, you would never be able to do that with your dog. You'd never be able to enjoy the park the way that I enjoyed the park with Teddy because you wouldn't be there. You'd be on your phone. You'd be thinking about whatever you're going to make for lunch, like whatever it was. And so I just,
That's going to be a great mom, Jess.
You brought up a really great point on the last hangout that we had. Someone was saying like that we don't believe in love or whatever, right? And you challenged them on that. And I just thought that you did a really great job with that. Because what you're saying right now is like
you don't even know what love is.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly. And it just shows like, okay.
It's funny that somebody would say that because if you come and experience my life, you'd be like, damn, you guys have this amazing family and life and everything. And at the same time, you think I don't experience love. And the reality is you never experience love.
Yeah.
You're always constantly fighting with everybody and creating drama and all this bullshit. Like you don't experience love. You're just hoping for, you're chasing it.
Yeah.
I am living it.
That definitely, like the last time we were all there, the last time we were all at your place, right? Just the feeling of being there together. Like it's so much fun. It's so enjoyable. And like, even the very first time I went over there, I experienced that and I barely knew you guys. Like,
and you even got yelled at by an immigrant for us stealing a carrot from their garden.
Yeah, that was intense.
But that's the thing too. That doesn't mean there's never any conflict.
Right.
But the reason why the love is real is because we always go back to the principles, we resolve the points and so forth. I'm not claiming that it's a constant feeling of bliss all the time.
Right.
But neither is the person that's saying that they believe in love. They're not experiencing that either. It's not a real thing.
Right.
Like things are gonna come up. And then the question is whether you're going to try to exploit that conflict for emotional self-interested energy, or are you going to resolve it so you're done with it? Are you trying to create memories for yourself to relive later in some dramatic fashion, or are you here to move on to the next thing?
There's a really great opportunity here to just like hit on that point, because what I think a lot of people think of when we're saying like, don't follow those feelings or emotions or whatever, don't get sucked into that, is not that we don't experience it. And I know this is what we've been saying for the last like 5-10 minutes, but it's like, don't let that be the point that directs you. Like it's going to come, it's going to go, it's going to ebb and flow, but you have to be on your path already. And those are the things that you'll experience on your path. Don't make that the path, right? Because that's what a lot of people are doing, is they just like, oh, life is about being happy. It's about following your bliss. It's about like, and when we say no, it's not.
You see that person is the one that I was talking about earlier, who is trying to argue with you about what you're saying.
Yeah.
But they're coming from the point of like, they don't really know.
Yeah.
Like they're trying to convince themselves.
And
so they're hoping you'll stop saying it so they can continue trying to convince themselves, but they wouldn't even be saying anything if they knew. If they were busy living their life being happy, they would not even be talking about it.
Yeah. And
what would be the point?
And they think that what you're saying means that they can't be happy, or that like you're going to take that happiness away from them, or they're not allowed to be happy. It's like, if
you had a right to happiness, it couldn't be taken from you. Like, think about it. The person who's saying, because you're right, I agree with you. That is where they're coming from, but that implies they're not happy.
Say that again. If you had a right to happiness, then it couldn't be taken from you.
Well, the whole point of
That's what a right is.
Like ordained by God, right? Like,
well, it's not just about that. It's you have it.
That's what the concept is.
It's like, for example, I have a right to be certain.
Okay.
Shouldn't you?
Okay.
No one can take it from me. I don't feel threatened. This Mormon guy texted me. I'm not like, oh, what if he convinces me and makes me join his religion and he like indoctrinates me and tries. I'm not worried about it. I don't ever have a problem with salespeople.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, if I end up wanting it, it's because I want it. they're going to help me want it. They're going to help me see the reason why I should want this thing. Why should I be afraid
was
of that?
me.
Like, I'm going to accidentally buy something I don't want.
Today, or when I went to Best Buy and was talking to that guy about the mask point that I was telling about earlier before we were recording,
Oh, I thought you said it was like Costco.
No.
no,
It
it
was
was
at
at
Best
Best Buy.
Okay.
Yeah,
What
and
does that matter?
I
What is that?
It
You're like, fuck,
it
man,
changed my entire image of the whole thing. I'm imagining you being in a Costco.
anyway,
You're like, damn, 1 second, guys. I gotta make some calls. 1 second.
so then
Gotta
he's
rethink some
like,
things.
he said, do you want to get an extra 20% off by signing up for a card? And I said, pitch me. Like you pitch me. Pitch
like,
me
oh,
on it.
shit,
And
what?
he's like, okay. So he loved it. He was like,
But
okay.
isn't that more fun than being
Yeah.
like,
And
oh,
it's
don't try to sell me
fun.
something?
And he goes into his whole pitch and he knows it. Like he knows it inside and out. You know what I mean? He knows all the numbers. He knows all the benefits. He knows all the perks. He knows all the cash back opportunities. He knows the percents for each transaction, whether it's the in-store only or if it's all transaction type one where you can go anywhere. You know, he knows everything. He's explaining all the two options to me. And then I let him know, oh, my husband doesn't let me sign up for a credit card without him being there.
How did he handle that objection?
And he said, oh, but you can call him right now. And I said, yeah, but he's at work right now. We won't do it this time, but that was good. Thanks, Mike. He was like, yeah, that was fun. And we just kept going. It was great. It was such a fun.
Try again next week.
Yeah. It was
Nice.
so great.
See, but that's the point is you could just be like, no, I'm not doing it.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
So why would you ever be afraid of a salesperson? Why would anyone? The only reason why they're afraid is because they know they're not certain.
Mhm.
Exactly.
And
They're like, well, if
uh,
someone's very persuasive, might change my mind. Is anyone ever going to be able to change our mind that what we're doing is best for all? It's like, no, because I don't believe it. I know it. It's like you can work it out. The only
Yeah.
reason why someone couldn't see is because they're low processing. That's why they have to have technotutor because they just can't see what's obvious.
Mhm. So fascinating too is like, so there's a lot of people like asking me about distributorship, but they're kind of still like, well, how do you know, and all this stuff. And it's just like, you can just see so clearly where people just have fear. They just don't trust themselves.
Right.
Like, well, how do I know if I take this on? Like how, and it's so obvious to
It's
me.
like, how do I know
It's
the
like-
business will work? It's like, how do you know any business will work?
Yeah.
Like imagine if you went to a job at Walmart and you the first
Imagine
question,
Jeff
you were like,
Bezos
how do I
was-
know people are going to come to Walmart tomorrow?
Yeah. Imagine Jeff Bezos is like, how do I know that people are gonna buy this book?
It's like he fucking made it happen.
Mhm.
He had a goal.
Exactly.
He never gave up. Every time something failed, he tried again. He figured out a different way.
It's some of these people are the people that are like in gin, like doing like, level
Right.
4.
Which is why they don't fucking know anything. That's why they are not actually applying the principles, but the reality is because they're not applying themselves and actually becoming more teachable. They think teachability is, what is it that people think teachability means?
It's like being willing to.
Okay. I watched
Wow.
this. I watched this this TED talk of this guy talking about fixed mindset versus growth mindset, right? And he was talking specifically about like students who have a fixed mindset believe that the skills that you have are the skills that you have, and that's all you get, right? And so they don't actually put any effort into trying to gain more knowledge or be smarter or anything like that. Like they think that smart is what you have. That's it, right? And then the students who they have a growth mindset, they're thinking, okay, well, how can I improve on this? And so the really interesting thing is while he was talking about it and giving the different examples of what is a growth mindset and what is a fixed mindset, I realized that in school, I had a fixed mindset because the way I looked at it was if you had to fucking try, you're not smart. Like that eliminates you from the smart pool. You have to put in effort. Nah, you're a dummy. Even if you got a better grade than I did, it's because you fucking worked your ass off and I didn't have to do that. Right. And so I realized that because of that, that was like an idea that I had of myself because for one, I had kind of built my identity around my intelligence. And two, I had looked down upon anyone who put in any effort because they weren't as intelligent as I was, right? And what I saw was then that actually became a point for myself of me limiting myself from going any further or being actually teachable. So like you brought up this point of like, they're thinking that teachability is like, oh, I'm already intelligent. I can absorb things already really readily. The way I was thinking of it, I don't have to do anything to be teachable. I am intelligent. I am teachable.
Instead of it actually being a function of what you know.
Exactly. Instead of it actually being a function of what you know.
Like if you worked hard and acquired more knowledge in this scenario,
yeah,
you would be more teachable because you could go to the professor who knows more beyond that and they could explain shit and you could understand it.
Right.
Because you have a new vocabulary set. But if you haven't even passed your biology class, that PhD professor is not gonna be able to teach you anything.
And here's the other thing. It's not necessarily work hard, it's effort, right? And I was looking at the word effort the other day, and effort is another definition of it is the skills needed to produce a result.
Right. So why does it doesn't have to be hard.
Right.
Even if it's easy for you, unless you accumulate the new knowledge, you're not gonna be able to understand the next bit of knowledge. It doesn't matter
Right.
we talked about this. Actually, I think you guys mentioned it on the last podcast, that point about the kid who works hard from the ghetto is never going to be the CEO of Exxon.
Right.
Because no matter how hard they work, they're not acquiring the new vocabulary that they would need to be able to be in there. You can work hard to acquire vocabulary, or you can work easy to acquire vocabulary. It doesn't matter. It matters whether you acquire the vocabulary is the key. And, if I look at that growth mindset thing, if you take it a step further, if you are in school in the first place, what's the starting point of why you're in school?
You cannot have a growth mindset in school, I'll tell you that.
Like, have a low vocabulary.
So imagine you're in school and you're like, well, I'm going to have a growth mindset.
Right.
Do you? Because if you actually had a real growth mindset, you'd question what the fuck you're doing. Why do you want to get a job? Why don't you just stop, go study a shit ton, and then go start a business and develop your communication skills? Like, why do you need to go to school? That's only to get a job, which means there's a limit to your growth mindset.
That's like an animal at the zoo. like you're placed in a zoo and like, okay, I'm a wild animal. Are you really though? Like,
so in the same sense, if you're a person in the self-development, whatever track, law of attraction, and you're like, well, I want what I want, and I'm teachable enough to get what I want. That's my teachability is in relation to what I want. I'm teachable enough so I can get these things I desire, but you never question what you desire. You're not teachable. You have to take it to the full point of like, just real quick. It's not about what you can get. It's about, are you actually accepting a higher level of responsibility? That's teachability. Right? Because isn't that what teachability implies? Isn't that what creation implies? Is you're responsible? You just want to have something and not be responsible for what you created?
Hang on.
Aren't you responsible for how it's created? Aren't you responsible for how it is coming into being?
Say it again. It's not what you can get. Teachability is not what you can get. It's the responsibility that you taken within it.
Meaning, if you're thinking your teachability is how much more information you can gather, I wouldn't suggest that. I would say your teachability is based on how much responsibility you can see and how much responsibility you're willing to take.
Can you go a little further with that?
Because I would rather have somebody who says, I want to take absolute responsibility for this world than somebody who says, I can accumulate a lot of knowledge.
Right. Because inherent within that, it's implied that the knowledge has to be applied within responsibility, where if you're just thinking it's information, it's just information.
You can learn everything about the stock market and become amazing at the stock market and never fucking make a difference and never change who you are.
True.
Because your level of responsibility is not high enough. You could have a high level of responsibility, learn something about the stock market, and then use that and apply it in a way that's best. That would be better. Because who are the fucks who are not having that level of responsibility and are playing the stock market with a really high level right now is the ones who are contributing to the problems that exist. So if someone's teachable by learning about the stock market, but their dreams and desires are, I just want a Ferrari and I want a mansion and I want to travel the world. And that's literally, so your teachability is in relation to those goals. That's not teachability. You see what I mean? That's just figuring out how to manipulate reality into giving you something that you're desiring, which is greed. Teachability should imply responsibility. See what I'm saying? So if you can within yourself question and go to the highest level of responsibility possible and go beyond literally the highest level, not just the highest level you can see, but literally the highest level, within that, there's a lot of stuff you're going to have to learn. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So if someone, so I remember when I first met Mayor, right? And he was like, I remember we'll have to have him on here sometime. But I remember he came over to the house, and I think I don't know if he had got TechnoTutor yet or if he had just gotten it, or I can't remember. I think he had already gotten it. I think he had just gotten it. I don't even think he had been using it yet at that point. But he wanted to come hang out. And I invited him over, and I remember the first thing, he'll laugh when he hears this. The first thing we were talking about is he was talking to Katie in the kitchen about his twin flame. And I remember Drake had told me, he's like, oh, Mayor's into this whole twin flame thing. So, and I remember Katie was just kind of like listening. And afterwards she was telling me, she was like, yeah, I wasn't really sure if you wanted me to like, just like destroy all that he was saying, or maybe you were planning something. So she's like, I just kind of left it, but listened to what he was saying. So anyways, we got in the car because we were going to go downtown or something and have dinner or whatever. Just me and Mayor. And I think maybe with Max too. And I got in the car and he got in the passenger seat. And I was like, so how teachable are you? And he was like, 10 out of 10. Right. And I go, we'll see. Right. So then the rest of the drive, every little thing he brought up, like spiritual, this, that, it was always like a, yeah, but this. And I would explain to him why that didn't make sense. So by the end of it, we had gone through pretty much the core of spirituality, because his belief was that he's already knows how to manifest and all this stuff, right? But then it wasn't until he had to really face some real major points, like a year later, that he had to go down into who he was and change those points, that he really started to shift. And now you see where he's at. Things are really starting to happen for him in his life in a way that people can be in any group, whether it's Gen or anything, for years and years and years and never go from step 1 to step 2 of what they want. It's always the thing on their dream board.
Mm-hmm.
He's actually making it real. I'm watching him do it. But it's because he's using the tools. He's also a Gen member and he's making the changes within himself. But here's when it clicked. And I know I can speak for him on this point, because he had to go away for a while and let things get worse and then come back. Because before he was going to go to California, and maybe we'll have him come on here and tell this story, but he went to California, and it was because I was pushing him in his business to take a next level of responsibility. And then suddenly something came up with his dad and he needed to go visit his dad. And I could see what was going on. He was avoiding what I was pushing him to do. But I didn't say anything. All I said to him right before he left was, it was like we had dinner the night before he left. And I said to him, don't get lost out there. Right. And I had told him a few days before that, I said, because he was telling me all about his Instagram and all this stuff he wanted to do. He wanted to be an influencer. And I had told him, I said, you haven't realized it yet, but TechnoTutor and doing what is best for all is your purpose, not any of that stuff. All of that stuff will fit into your purpose, but this is really your purpose. And I could see he was kind of like, how dare you tell me what my purpose is? But when he went to California, he came back a little while later, and that was right before the pandemic hit. But it was right before that he was like, it wasn't right away, but it was like within a short period of time, we met up, we talked some more, and then he was like, he realized that point, and I'm sure he can explain it from his perspective, but I could see it happening. He realized that point of, yeah, this is what I'm here to do. I'm here to actually make a difference, not just pursue my fantasies of being famous and having money and all this stuff. That's a part of it, but I'm here to make a difference. I'm here to take responsibility for this world. And then when he made that decision, his business, himself, everything in his life went up, while everybody else with the pandemic, the average person, their life was going down. He was expanding because he took that next level of responsibility, and he's continuing to do that. And that's one of the things that anybody should admire about Mayer. And it's not unique to him, but it's unique in the sense of the average person. It's not common, is he's willing to take more responsibility when it makes sense to him, when it's clear. And sometimes our so this is really my point. Teachability is taking more responsibility. So why wouldn't you take more responsibility? Because it's not clear to you yet that that is what's required. It's not clear to you yet that you can. It's not clear to you yet because you don't have the vocabulary to take responsibility, because you're thinking this can't change, or I can't do this, because you don't know how to do it. So it's from that lack of understanding of what it is that you need to do. So you'll start making all kinds of justifications. So a person who says, well, I'm not here to make a difference, doesn't realize everything you want, all that stuff on your dream board, you can have if you stand up and do what we're doing. You can have all those things. But also, I know some of those things are going to change. So you can have everything you truly want. And can you have a Ferrari? Yes, you can have a Ferrari. But you don't even know yet whether you actually want a Ferrari. Because when I was a kid, I thought I wanted a Ferrari. I don't want a Ferrari. I could have a Ferrari. I don't want a Ferrari. Why do I want a Ferrari? Like, they drive fast. The purpose of it is to drive fast, isn't it? Isn't that dangerous? Don't I have a responsibility to be here for my family? So beyond driving fast, which is what the thing is designed to do, what's the purpose of it?
Get attention.
It's attention. I don't need attention. I get all the attention I need from myself, from my kids. I don't even need attention from them. I don't need attention. The only attention I want is to be able to listen to what I'm saying and do what they need to do what's best. That's the only attention I need. And you see what I mean? It's not for me. I don't need to be on the podcast, but people are paying attention to it. That's what I want. Not they're paying attention because I'm here, because I'm getting attention. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So the teachability, if I'm explaining to you, this is what we need to do in this world, and you're like, no, that can't happen, blah, 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 you're not teachable. Teachability is not in proportion to what you want. It's into the responsibility that is required to do what's best for all in this world. You see what I'm trying to say? There's an objective reality to teachability, not your subjective version of it. So the person who says, well, you don't have a right to tell me what I want or what's my purpose or whatever, or control me. First of all, I'm not trying to control anybody. Second of all, I do have a right. Because you can't take that away from me. You can't take away from me. I'm going to fucking tell you what's your purpose. Stop me. You can't. I'm going to do it. I have a right to do it. In the same sense that this person feels they have a right to tell me I don't have a right. You see what I mean? They don't actually have that right. That's why they will call us names. They will say we're this and we're that, because they're trying to get us to stop, because it actually starts to persuade them. So they're thinking, oh, if I call you this or that or whatever, or become a hater, you're going to stop. It's like, no, I planned that was going to happen, you know?
Yeah.
But you see my point about teachability?
Yeah, no, it's a really great point. It's a really, like, that was a fucking masterclass right there.
If somebody is saying they're teachable
Master spell.
and they're not doing what we're doing, they're not teachable. Because
Say that once more. Say that once more.
if they're not doing what we're doing, they're not teachable. If they're saying they're teachable, but they're not doing what we're doing, they're not teachable.
I've got somebody who is messaging me on Facebook, and one of the first things that was brought up was techno tutor, and I was like, yeah, you should definitely reach out to Mitch about that and get more information. And he went off and he was like, well, I got a doctorate in this, and I've been practicing this for this long, and I do shadow work and blah, 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 blah. And I was like,
I think I know who you're talking about.
that has nothing to do with what I was saying. He was just defending what he's doing because he doesn't want to change and he doesn't want to do something else. And
Somebody says they're fucking doing shadow work, and be like, who are you, Peter Pan? Like, what the fuck is your shadow?
Your dark side, Cameron.
See, but here's the funny thing. What's in front of you in this world is a reflection of who you are. There's no shadows. There's nothing hidden. Just look at the fact that there's poverty.
Wait. How do you change a shadow? How do you move your shadow?
You
Move
have
yourself.
to move. Yeah.
Right. So your shadow is,
I'm just dealing with a bunch of bullshit work. That's
I
all.
understand what the person's saying when they're saying I'm doing shadow work. It's not like I don't know what that is,
Right.
but it's still projecting something out instead of it just being, it's what I'm accepting. It's actually who I am. It's not your shadow. It's who you are. It's who you're accepting and allowing yourself to be. It's what you're accepting and allowing out in the world. So you calling it shadow work is trying to make it into something that you don't realize is actually allowing the point to continue existing, and it's never going to change.
Mhm.
You just need to call it DIP. If you're saying, oh, it's the same as what you guys are doing, then just call it Destiny I process. Then just say you're doing Destiny. Stop saying it's called shadow work. If it doesn't fucking matter. Because if you're saying, no, it's got to be shadow work, that's just your fucking ego. It's you wanting to not. But the reality is, there's something beyond what you're doing and you're comfortable with what you're doing. There's a comfort within working on your shadow.
But he tried to justify it with logic, Cameron.
But
He tried to say all these scientific things and how he knows so much about neurology and he's studied it and he's got these years of experience. So nothing I say could ever change what he's doing because he's coming from the point of authority. He is the authority figure.
And that's what I mean about teachability. Because at the end of the day, how do I know if someone's not doing what we're doing, that they're not teachable and they're full of shit? Here's how I know. Number one, maybe they don't understand yet. They're not aware of it. That doesn't make them less culpable, but at least they're innocent from the perspective of that. Oh, they just haven't come across it and considered it yet. Fine, that's totally cool. So I'm not like out there like, we're the best, we're amazing, everyone else is screwed. But I'm not creating a separation between anybody. If someone is not aware of it, they haven't studied it yet, that's fine. That's our responsibility is to go for people to become aware of it. So I'm not blaming them for me not having talked to them yet. Okay. That's why we create systems. But somebody who's actively like, no, I'm not going to do what you're doing because we can't make the world best for all. That's what it comes down to, isn't it? Why are you guys laughing?
Because
Sure,
Mitch is like,
commenting.
Mitch is
I was like
eating.
checking the chat. I'm like, am I missing something?
Mitch is eating while Jess is like, while Jess is talking. Like he could have chose any other moment when you're talking, when Ass is talking. Yeah, but
It's just
but-
very unique food.
But there is nothing else beyond what we're talking about. There's no higher truth. We're saying total 100% responsibility. We need to change the system. We need to change who we are to do what's best for all. How can there be anything beyond that, even from a logical perspective?
yeah. I think a lot of people just immediately, as soon as you say there's nothing beyond what we're talking about, they go into a reaction because I don't remember exactly having that reaction because I don't think you and
It's not because I think I'm better than other people.
Right.
Like in the sense of like I need followers or I want people to applaud me or I want to be in control of something. It's not because of that. I'm doing what I'm doing because I've taken on the responsibility to do it. And that's why I'm suggesting other people to take on responsibility.
Yeah.
So the only reason why somebody would say, well, one of the reasons somebody might say because they think maybe I'm faking it or something just for personal gain. But there's a lot of easier ways for me to have a decent life than doing what I'm doing.
I like there was this one time that somebody made a comment or whatever and said that you don't know how to build rapport. Like, oh, he's trying to sell me on something, but you don't know how to build rapport. And your response was, I'm not trying to build rapport with you. I want you to get what I'm saying. Like building rapport, if you need for me to build rapport, you're asking for me to manipulate you so that you can feel good about it. So then you can do what I'm saying. What I'm saying should just make sense. It's common sense, right?
Yeah. And if let's just break that down for a second. If somebody says, you're not very good at selling, it's like, okay, so you do see the value in what I'm presenting, but you just don't like my personality. Is that what you're saying? Because if that's the case, then fucking sell yourself on it. Forgive me. I suck. Well, then your product must not work if you're not so good at selling. Well, which is it? So if you don't like, if I'm not building rapport with you, and therefore that's a reflection on what I'm presenting to you, but I can see what you're saying is a bunch of bullshit.
Hang on, because that does need a caveat. That doesn't need a caveat because because it's not just what I'm presenting. It's literally this that we're presenting. It's not just any random thing.
Okay, here, let's get some more context, because this doesn't just, like, you guys know me. If I meet somebody out and I'm talking with somebody, I'm very good at getting people to like me.
Yes.
I was a very good tutor for that same reason. Anything you're doing, you're playing a certain role, and some people are very good at flexing their personality to fit that particular situation, and some people are not. I'm not saying I'm amazing at every possible scenario, but I'm saying there's many scenarios, and just being around other people, if I decide that's what I'm going to do, that I'm going to become this, make this person like me, it's not hard to do. It's not even that I'm like special at it. I'm just saying it's not hard to do.
You know, I've
don't
never
limit myself.
thought of the word flexing as flexible.
Right.
Not
Right. Okay. So the context here, though, is you're online, and it's usually something like Mitch made a post that said, I don't know, make something up, like the
Take
poverty.
responsibility for your life.
We need to end poverty in this world because we're all accepting it. I don't know, something like that, right? Somebody comes on there and says, I don't know, what would they say? What's something they might say?
I'm not accepting poverty.
Yeah, I don't accept poverty.
There you
Okay,
go.
so I come in there and I say, hold on, you're
Yeah.
accepting and allowing poverty because you're not taking responsibility to change the system, right? The system is what's creating poverty. You're not changing it. And now suddenly they got triggered because I disagreed with them. Yeah. Okay.
Mhm.
Now, well, how are you supposed to do that? Well, you could get TechnoTutor. Oh, well, you're just trying to sell me this product. You're just trying to sell me TechnoTutor, and you're not developing very good rapport with me. So clearly you don't know what you're doing. No, hold on. The way that this started was you saying something fucking retarded, and I'm trying to explain to you why it doesn't make sense, but you're just allowing yourself to get emotionally triggered because the reason why you responded in the first place was because you already disagreed with the post.
Yeah.
So the only way I could build rapport with you in this context is just to agree with you. Just like, remember I read that thing to you guys, that
Right.
Mormon kid,
Right.
and he was like, oh, that's really interesting. That's interesting. I'd be interested in knowing more about it. And then he asked me a question to get back control. It's really good technique.
Yeah.
I am not feeling like, oh, this guy is really, really interested. I know he's not interested. I know he's just trying to sell me. I'm not offended by it. I'm not upset by it, but I'm not fooled by it either. I'm not thinking, oh, well, you know, maybe there is something to this Mormonism thing because this guy's really developing rapport with me. I'm never going to consider Mormonism.
Right.
It's not going to happen, but I'll still talk to the guy because my starting point is maybe I can speak some common sense to this kid, and he can take his youthful energy and his enthusiasm and his ability to obviously reach out and sell and apply that to something best instead of this fucking retarded Mormon stuff that he's doing. Like, I'm thinking I'm going to recruit this guy to my thing. Right? That's what you should. That's what even the person who's saying you're not a good salesperson because you don't know how to build rapport is trying to recruit you to something they're thinking about. Even if it's not a business, it's just their mindset. It's their. They want you to shut up and agree with them. So
Right.
they're trying to neg you into
Right.
feeling like you don't know how to build rapport. So you'll just agree with them. So it's like, we can be done with it. Stop trying to convince me. And it's kind of like, it's like you showed up to a social media post and now you're acting like I should build rapport with you. You were arguing with the original post that I didn't even make in the first place. You weren't trying to build any rapport with anybody.
Right.
That's not the game we're playing here. So they're trying to do like a whole next level of manipulation to get you to back down. And then when I'm like, I don't give a fuck what you're saying. I don't care if you think I'm building rapport or not building. I'm not trying to sell you something right now. And yet I am selling you.
Yeah.
Because it's another level of playing this game. In person, it would probably be a different scenario because that person's probably not going to be so bold to just come back at you with something like, I know they wouldn't. I know they wouldn't. They're not going to say that to you face to face. So they're being bolder than they normally would be on social media. And they're just hoping you won't be. And also what I know is, and what they don't know, and I don't ever need to tell them in the post or anything is, buddy, whatever you think, there's 3 other people watching this that this month or next month or whatever, they're going to buy TechnoTutor because they saw what I said and what I said made sense and they could see you're being a fucking idiot. And there's a lot of other people even watching that down the road. And it's not even like I'm guessing this. I know it because I see it happen. It's like, I see the patterns. It happens. It's already happening. It's already happened. So he just doesn't understand that I'm not talking to you. It's not personal. I'm talking to the pattern that you're representing. I don't know you. You know, and it's funny, someone says, oh, you're not building rapport. If you really wanted to get to know me or something, you could have just messaged me. They're not doing that. It's like somebody, we were talking about this on that last meeting. Somebody said, oh, I don't like the way you guys are very secretive about TechnoTutor, about what it is.
What the heck?
It's like, it's called direct sales. It's called, we have a presentation. It's called, I don't waste my time. I know what is required to explain to someone for them to see the value of TechnoTutor. That's not a sales, that's not a gimmick. That's true. I know what is required for you to take the, it'd be like if you wanted to go talk to a doctor while they're walking around at the mall and you were like, hey, what should I do for this cough? And they're like, go make an appointment. Like, can you just tell me right now, go make an appointment. There's lots of things we need to first do. You need to fill out an inpatient form. There's a whole process. Why are you being so secretive about it? It's like, I'm not, I'm the expert. You're not. I know what is required.
It's so true.
This is the way I've structured the process because I'm an expert and I know what
And
we
that's
need to do.
literally with everything. I have people on Snapchat who message me and they're like, how much do you make per month? I don't believe you. Send me your bank account numbers. It's like, what?
See, but what's cool is it's a filter. It's like that person is never. So some people might say like, why are you always so mean to that person? Or whenever they say something or whatever, it's because I know that person is never going to buy.
Mm-hmm.
Unless something tragic happens in their life where they become teachable because they realize I'm responsible for this shit that I created. I need to change something. Until they do that.
That literally happened with one of these guys that's Snapchatting Jess. He's like, how do you did this and that? Like, I need more proof. I need more proof. And Jess is asking me like, should I just stop talking to this guy or whatever? It's like, yeah, just let him go. Let him spiral. Sure enough, we figure out a month later, he gets horribly sick, ends up in the hospital. I mean, I feel for the guy's kids. That's what any benefit.
Too excited you were saying that, yeah.
Because this guy has 3 kids, and it's like, you know, I want them to not be 3 little minion replicas of this guy. But hey, you know, life smacked in the face.
And the thing is, we don't want people to suffer, but we're already presenting to them the ways to prevent this suffering and to stop, because a lot of the suffering we experience is self-created.
Yeah.
Even the suffering we experience from the outside is self-created. It's just self-created through time, and it's a consequence. And you can't change that outside suffering with the snap of a finger. That's why we keep bringing everything back to, we need to change the fucking system. So we're presenting at all levels the ways to stop all of that. So anybody who would try to fight what we're doing and try to get you to change the way in which you do it to suit them, all that tells me is that person is not teachable. Because if they were building a business and they had created a system and they know that it works and they've proven that it works, they wouldn't change their system. Like, you think because I don't like the way they do shipping on Amazon, Jeff Bezos is going to change it because I complain? No, they create systems to influence you to want what they're already creating next year. He said he lives 5 years in the future when he goes to work. So he's not listening to your feedback. He's creating stuff he wants to create, and then he's going to support you to want it.
It's the same thing Steve Jobs did. It's like nobody asked for.
It's called fucking business.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whether you're doing what's best for all or not, you still have to play by the rules of the system. This is why people who are protesting think that they're going to change the system. You're not going to change it. You're not playing by the rules, because who are you protesting against? First of all, who are people always protesting?
The government.
Right. You're yelling at the people abusing you to stop abusing you.
You know, the other thing is like at this point, or by this point, they've already seen what happens when they do X, Y, Z. And so it's like, they've already factored in you're going to protest.
Exactly.
It's already like, no,
it's like when you go to the grocery store, they've already factored in X number of people are going to steal shit. So most of the time they probably don't even say something when somebody steals something, because it's called, there's a name for it. I forget what it's called, but what is that name?
Cost of business.
No, they have, but they have a name for when things go missing. I forget the name for it, but it's just like a word they use that represents, there's a certain amount of inventory that we're going to lose.
Yeah.
Huh?
Yeah, it's something inventory. Yeah, I know you're talking about.
It's called like
Lost?
lost or something. It's
Lost
some word
inventory?
like that. Yeah, something like that. But anyways, the point is they've already factored it into the business model. They already
Yeah, yeah,
know
yeah.
they're going to lose a certain amount of stuff.
Right. Right. So the point is, okay, you thinking that you're going to protest, you're that lost inventory. You're like, they've already in a way almost, if it's not manufactured, it's definitely expected, you know, coming from the government point, you know? And so what
And plus they use all the protesting to justify anything else they want to do.
Oh yeah, that was a great point that you made before the podcast of like how, okay, your protest, do you get to control the media of what you
How it's perceived.
Exactly. So even if you go on like part of the reason why like if you go on a television show of like Fox or CNN or whatever, they said in the Project Veritas, you know, the thing that's coming out now about CNN, they said right up front, like, we only invite people on who we know are going to react or respond in the way that we want them to. Like we only
Like they're just winging it or something. Like, give me a break. Like they are programming. They know. They're like, we want this person because we know what the result is going to be. They know what the fuck they're doing.
Right.
It's a science.
Right. Exactly. And so all that to say that you are
the person who's reacting is not a threat.
Yeah.
Okay. The same thing when you see haters, and this is for, you know, because we make this podcast from one perspective for people who are in self-perfected, people who are studying destiny, doing technotutor. We're not doing it to reach people outside of the group, if that makes sense. We're doing it for the group, right? We're saying you want to be in this group. Now you have a podcast you can listen to. Anybody else in the group could start their own podcast and be like, this is my podcast that I'm doing. And if it was valuable, I would listen to it. If you were saying things that were in alignment with the principles, I would watch it. That's the whole point. So the reason I'm saying that is because we're not trying to convince people outside of the group already. That's what we do one-on-one.
Yeah.
So when somebody tries to criticize the way we're approaching it, it's like, no wonder you're a loser. No wonder you haven't created anything. Right? Imagine the person who criticizes someone doing sales techniques, but then they idolize Kevin Trudeau. And it's like, dude, how do you think he fucking got you to listen to your Wish Your Command and join Jin and all this stuff in the first place? And I'm not criticizing Kevin. Like, he's a salesperson, just like Bill Gates is a salesperson. Imagine the person criticizing salespeople for selling the solution, but then being upset at Bill Gates. And it's like, what are you doing to do anything about it other than just complain? What about Jesus? You're going to complain about Jesus? Jesus was a salesperson.
For sure.
Anything you do in your life, anything that you find any value in whatsoever, a salesperson was there at some level making that thing a reality. Because somebody had to be persuaded, because human beings make decisions emotionally. I cannot change that myself. That's the system we live in. The only way I can change it is by people getting technotutor.
Which is what we're doing.
Which is the whole point of what we're doing. So it's funny because the person who would complain that they believe we're being manipulative, which we're not, in this negative sense of we're lying or deceiving or tricking or trying to, I think when people say you're being manipulative, especially they use that term gaslighting, they're trying to imply that you're trying to create the sense of a problem that's not there.
Yeah.
You see what I mean? Like, I'm trying to make the person feel that they have a problem they don't have.
And especially with that term gaslighting, it's what you're saying, but just in a different word, deceive. It's like you're trying to deceive them. That's really like, I think the point that people would react to is.
But it's like funny because how am I deceiving you by not telling you something and saying that we can meet and I can show you everything? Why is that deceptive?
So one of those guys that was bringing that up, I like asked him that, and he's like, well, can't you, like, I just need to know like a little bit about it to even want to meet. I'm like,
But you sound
Dude.
like you already want to know about it.
Yeah.
So it sounds like you already know enough to know you want to see it. Now you want to know what I'm going to show you in my presentation.
You really just wanted to feel freaking special and wanted to
Okay.
get his attention.
That is the point.
Yes.
The person is just looking for attention. That's all it is. And the way they found to get attention is by talking shit about us, which kind of shows that like, what?
Well, it helps actually because like I have people still reaching out and they're like, oh, it makes so much sense what you were saying. Like, why is that guy all weird about
Right.
this?
It's funny
I
because
don't know. I
what
don't
they're
know.
saying, it'll cause questions in other people. They'll reach out to us and then that'll be the opportunity because that person's actually teachable.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So when we explain and so what I know about this person is this person we're talking about is only trying to seek attention. So they're not looking for responsibility.
Mhm.
So I don't need to adjust myself for them because their starting point is just attention. So I will just use their desire for attention to create attention around what we're doing. So that people who are looking for more responsibility and are able to see that this person's weird, it doesn't make sense what they're saying. Because someone can say, I'm evil and deceptive. Okay, let's say they're saying I'm deceptive. How about, let's start with that for a moment. I'm so deceptive that I tell my kids that Santa Claus isn't real. And the same people, the same mindset will say, I'm an asshole for not deceiving my kids because they should be allowed to be kids.
Yeah.
Allo deceptive.
Yeah. But do you see my point? So at the one hand, I'm super deceptive, even though I have over 100 audio videos and audios on my channel, tons of things that I've written, done live videos, these podcasts, everything talking about TechnoTutor and the fact that it's building your vocabulary and it's a specific technology that does it. And it only makes sense when you see it in person because then you actually get the effect of it. And there's nothing else to know. The only other thing you need to know is the whole context of how learning actually works because you don't understand that. Like you think you understand how learning and education works, but you don't know you've just been brainwashed by an education system designed to dumb you down. And that all of the research, when you ask me, where's the research? I'm telling you what the research is right now. Before you ever ask me another thing about TechnoTutor, go and read all of the research that's been done on reading and education. And then after you've done that, you won't need to ask me, where's the research? Because you've already read all the research that exists. And I'm okay with you doing that first and then asking me or someone else who's a distributor, show me TechnoTutor. Go read all of the existing educational research, take as much time as you need the next 10 years if you want. And after you've done that, then come ask us, look at TechnoTutor. But by that time, 10 years later, my son that would be 14 or he'll be 15 by then. Okay. He'll already, from your perspective, be like Einstein. So you can wait and you cannot have that for your family. Like, can you even name the name of a CEO of an educational company or the owner of an educational company? You can't even name one. So I was going to say, name one that does this, but you can't even name one. But even if you could, who's the owner of Pearson Education?
Me.
Drake Pearson, right? An actual person who runs an educational company where their children are products of it and their children are geniuses. And they use it themselves and they are a genius. And all of their friends use it and they are geniuses. And all their employees use it and all of them are geniuses. And they're having amazing things happen in their lives. There isn't one.
There's only one.
There's only one.
You're looking at him talking.
Like, if you think about it, we're the most open people about everything in our life, about what we do. Like, if I was afraid of people being like, TechnoTutor is a cult, would I wear this shirt with the name of the apparent cult on it? If I actually believed that was the case.
Right.
So I'm such a lousy business person that I try to hide the fact of what it is, even though I'm very open about all the negative things that people perceive about it, because I know they're negative and I know that they're true. Or is it because I know it's not true and I'm not ashamed and what we're doing is actually best? And so we're representing what we're actually doing.
Yeah.
And so in other words, it's again, who am I talking to? Not the fucking hater. They don't get it. I'm talking to the person who actually understands what we're doing, but is not yet processing the context of what's going on. And by the way, like Alan, for example, he had messaged me about that post because he had seen it. He's another distributor. And he was like trying to understand, like, yeah, well, why do we do things X, Y, and Z? And I explained to him very clearly why. And he was like, oh, that makes sense. Oh, oh yeah, this person's jealous. That's why he's like, it just didn't make sense to me why they were acting the way they acted. And when he understood that they're just being a jealous hater and they've had plenty of opportunity, like, I don't know where this person lives. It doesn't matter to me, but they could very easily, if they wanted to, go and look at TechnoTutor. Nothing is being, if somebody called you and was like, can you show me TechnoTutor? What would you say?
Bro, I will fly out to you.
Well,
and show
okay,
you.
that's Drake specifically. No one else is going to do that, but Drake does that. There's never been a time where somebody was in a particular area where we just didn't have a distributor there. And I told Drake and he was like, I'll fly out there. Like if they're serious, if they're like, yeah, I actually want to see it. He's there.
Mm-hmm.
You've been to Colorado. You've been to Nebraska,
yeah.
California, North Carolina,
Omaha?
right? And in Omaha, they have TechnoTutor. They're a part of our parenting group now.
Yeah.
North Carolina, they got TechnoTutor. They had a baby.
Yeah.
Right. Which they didn't even want to be parents before until they started following what Katie was doing.
Cool.
Right. And then they got TechnoTutor because what Drake showed them. And now they've had their baby. And it was so cool. I'm sure at some point, I won't say who it is, but at some point they'll probably tell their story and everything, I'm sure, when they're ready for that. But they were having a particular challenge with having a newborn, which is a very normal challenge, nothing weird or anything, a very normal challenge that even though it's a very normal challenge that a lot of women go through, they end up giving up on it. Right. And this is why women turn to formula, which it's not best for the baby. Breastfeeding is best. Unless the mothers had like a double mastectomy and they just literally can't breastfeed. I mean, then what choice do you have? Right.
Yeah.
But in the event that you don't have to make that choice, what happens is sometimes it's difficult to get the child to actually breastfeed. And since it's such an easy alternative, people just go to that, or they don't even try in the first place. It's like weird that you would breastfeed. Why would you breastfeed your child? Like, doesn't that seem insane?
It seems allopathic.
It's almost like 20 years from now, if we never did anything, people would be like, dude, it's so weird that you just walk around with your mouth exposed.
Right.
Like you can see, like it used to
You
be
hug
normal,
people.
and then somebody wanted to sell you something, so they made it seem abnormal to enough people until it became normal. So breastfeeding is like the best thing you can do for your baby. Watch, this will be the thing that gets us deplatformed. But in any case, they were describing to Katie how they went through this process of using their TechnoTutor, and they'd been using it prior to this, but so they knew how to do it. Is my point. But they were using this process, and then they got the child to actually be able to breastfeed, and Katie was crying. Like listening to this.
Wow.
Because it's like, imagine when I look at my children and I see like how sturdy they are. Like, look at Max. Like sometimes I look at him and I'm like, this child is like, just like a perfect, amazing child. And I'm saying him specifically because he's like super tall for his age. Like super tall for his age.
He's like a force of nature. Like embodied.
And I'm like, it's because of everything that we've done. It's not that we controlled every aspect of who he is and what he is, but we've done all the right things. So that helped. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You can't control what color your kid's eyes are going to be. Do you see what I'm saying? But you can control whether you breastfeed them, whether you support them rather than yell at them, whether you explain things instead of punish. Like you can control all those things. The things that we could control, we're very specific about. And I can see the reflection of that. So my point being that when I see that and I see Seneca and I see how amazing they are, and I know that within the realm of things we can influence, we've done those things. Does that make sense what I'm saying? Meaning I know there's things I didn't create that I can't control, but the things that we did what we could do, what was best.
Yeah.
So to the degree that had the influence it had, I am proud of that, if that makes sense. Meaning I understand that that was the effect that I created. So then when you or someone else or myself is able to support another parent to do those right things, I know what we've done for that child.
Yeah.
That they couldn't do for themselves. And if the parent hadn't had TechnoTutor and walked this process and done all these points, they wouldn't have gotten it, and that child would have suffered because of it. So it's like I look at that and I'm like, we've just by building a system and doing something systematically and not giving up and creating and growing and walking through limitations and using these tools myself, because I wouldn't be able to be where I'm at. None of you would be where you're at if you hadn't also, it's like you're the living proof that it works. So what you're selling is not a thing that's pretty cool that you can make money from. It's the thing you're using to be able to do it, because you would have already given up. Just in any business you would have done, you would have already given up. You would have already switched to something. You already done something. You would end up trying to pursue, and you'd end up compromising and settling on something.
Yeah.
There'd be a level of responsibility you would just not be able to get to. That's where the teachability would kick in, where you just wouldn't be teachable. And so here you have a parent who's able to increase their teachability, which means increase their responsibility to their child, which means they're giving their child an adequate preparation to live in this world at their utmost potential. And to be able to do that, like, how can you define bliss in anything that doesn't include that? How can you have bliss from eating a candy bar? How can you have bliss from listening to music? How can you have bliss from going to the beach in the Bahamas? Like, those things are all great and amazing, but I don't want to sit on a beach by myself. I want to build a business that makes it so when I pay for a beach vacation, it literally is like irrelevant to me, the cost. And my family is there enjoying it with me. And my friends are there enjoying it with me. And wouldn't it also be amazing if we can create those experiences and we didn't need slaves also to fucking be serving us?
Yeah.
Because that's the next level, where it's like, even that dream that you might have, you still need the slaves to serve you the drinks and to clean up your shit. Because if that country wasn't in absolute poverty, those people wouldn't be doing those jobs. So we're literally enslaving people so we can have beach vacations. So at what level do people question their dreams? They don't. And remember, just like we were talking about at the beginning with that book, it's all shaped by the fact that we were programmed to just focus on survival. But that's because that's been our starting point this whole time. And so if you're not changing that within yourself, that fear of survival, which is a fear of loss, which is a fear of losing what?
Fear of losing your self-interest.
No,
Losing your life.
losing your life. You're afraid of losing your life, so you don't even use your life to give and take the utmost responsibility, which would be the gratitude. So if you actually have an attitude of gratitude towards life, would you act like it's something you can lose? Because that would be coming from a fear of loss, wouldn't it? And therefore, wouldn't you be creating the thing that you fear, which is losing your life eventually?
Yeah.
But if you actually were grateful about it, you'd be like, I don't care if I lose it. I'm not focused on that. I'm focused on giving, because that's what I am. I am life. I'm here to give. You equalize yourself with what life is. If you equalize yourself with the very thing that you've been given, how can you lose it? Because you are that. Because that's what life is. It's something that gives unconditionally.
Right.
Instead of just taking.
That was beautifully said.
Right?
Yeah.
So when the haters come and they're saying all this shit, it's like, do you have no fucking clue what you're saying no to? But the best gift I can give them is like not changing what I'm doing to suit them. Because if I did that, that would be accepting what they're doing and validating it and allowing them to think, to believe and feel and think and everything that it's okay to do what they're doing. It's like if you have a friend and they just want you to make them feel good no matter what, even if it's something that's not best, what's the best thing you can do?
Stop talking to them.
Yeah, be like, if that's what you want out of this relationship, I'm not your friend anymore.
Yeah.
Some people would rather not lose the friend. Right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So you're going to create what it is that you accept and allow. So but the reality is, if you give that person the opportunity to stop by losing that thing they're afraid of losing, then they can make a different choice, and then they can be a friend that you actually want to have. So why do you want to surround yourself with friends who just want to manipulate you for feelings? Why would you want that?
Right.
You're equal to whatever your starting point is. So if you're not, if you actually want something, the first thing to do is let go of the fear of losing it. And it's so hard people to do that because they think that if you do that, that means you can't have it. But doesn't that just show like they're still focusing on, they don't want to lose it, so they're gonna manifest it.
Wow.
That's a good point.
I mean, imagine all these people who said we can't have equality in this world because that would mean you'd have some communist dictatorship, right? What are we all busy manifesting right now?
A communist dictatorship. It's funny because those people they're actually fighting for creating the communist dictatorship. It's like they don't realize that when we're saying, hey, create a world that's best for all, no, you can't have that because then, it's going to be imposed on you. People are going to tell you what to do. Like that's what the fuck is going on right now. Right now. And it's so obvious. It's so clear.
You can't have an ideal world, so stop trying to create it. It's like, if you can't have an ideal world, stop resisting having a non-ideal world.
Right.
Like the logic boggles the mind.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like if you can't have an ideal world, then just accept that you're going to live in hell.
Yeah.
There is no middle ground. And they think that, and this is literally the thought process of the middle class is, I've got good enough. Don't upset the balance. I don't need to worry about poor people because if I focus on that, I might become poor. It's like the job of the people up here is to make you poor. It's called competition. You're not at that level. You're fucked.
Yeah.
And even all these boomers, it's like all of their security was based on the stock market. Isn't it? Pensions?
Yeah.
And we all know that's just a ticking time bomb.
Yeah.
So even the idea that you could just take care of yourself, and they could say, well, but no, I'll live until, well, you're living in a fucking pandemic where you can't leave your house and shit to protect the boomers. So it's like they by focusing on like think about that for a moment, right? They focused on security for themselves, pensions and so forth. Just go to college, get a good job, get a pension, right? Which doesn't work right now for current millennials and so forth, right?
Right. Yeah.
But the boomers are probably thinking, yeah, but it worked for us. So you guys can figure it out. But now look at the world that they've manifested for themselves.
You know what else is really
a pandemic where it's locked them up and they can't even enjoy the fucking retirement that they had.
Yeah. What else is really interesting about that is like if you're looking at it as far as generationally, they're the only group that still has something like some amount of money, let's say, right? And that can very easily be taken from them because the stock market can crash at any moment, literally. And once they don't have anything, or once they're dead because they're aging, obviously, right? Then it'll be everyone that's left will have nothing. As like speaking as a whole. And then that's when you can really roll out hey, we'll give you, this basic income with strings attached. Meaning you give up whatever you have and everyone's like, well, we don't have anything anyway. All we have is debt. Yes, give it to me. And so it's like, if you're keeping track, or if you're just able to see how a pattern goes, then you can see that coming really easily, really clearly. It's like, I don't know. Like, yeah, some people who are just living their lives, here's the one thing I want to say is that people want you to let them just live their life. I think that's like the biggest reaction that I see from people is that they just like want to be happy or whatever, but it boils down to
it's not even about being happy. It's just they don't want to be uncomfortable.
Right.
They don't want to change.
Right. Exactly.
Live my life. Let me have my own opinions. Just means I don't want to change.
And
I don't want to take the responsibility of changing, which is why our world, I can say with proof, it is not teachable.
Right.
That's why TechnoTutor is the key to changing everything. Like I said on Facebook the other day, the answer to the question, how do you change the system to be best for all? The answer is TechnoTutor.
Yeah.
It's the only thing that's going to support a person to understand why more responsibility is necessary and how to actually take that responsibility, because everything we do is words and vocabulary and understanding. There's nothing beyond that. Everything else is just based on that.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And like that point of responsibility, that's such a cool point, because it means that having the starting point or having the excuse of I can't do it, or I don't know how, or whatever that excuse is not acceptable, because the responsibility is on you to, okay, make it happen. Like, okay, this is what it is. No one else is going to do it. You're either going to allow it to be not best, which is, again, what people are fighting for with just let me be, but they don't realize that path that it's going down is the path of you will have everything taken from you. Like, we will all get to enjoy a life where we have nothing and we're quote unquote happy about it. No one's going to be happy about that, because it's going to be a forced life. Or you can be uncomfortable right now and not know a lot of shit, but take the responsibility of figuring it out, learning it, and taking the responsibility of making it happen for yourself and your environment, your community, your area. And if you're listening to this and you got this far and you don't get that, use your fucking Technotutor. Like, seriously, because if you go back and re-listen to what Cam was saying about responsibility, and then taking that to, okay, how is that actually playing out practically? Like, what are we actually doing? Like, listening to what he does with his kids and what we're doing for other families. If you missed that, you missed the whole boat, because you can have that. You can have that. Like we're not lacking in bliss or love or any of those things that people actually want. But our starting point is the principle that makes that even possible to happen. It's not just seeking those things and throw everything to the wayside or compromise on who we are. It's what you want. It's what you fucking want. Don't be stupid, So yeah, all I can recommend is go back, listen to what Cam was saying, use your Technotutor to actually understand it. And if you don't have Technotutor, reach out to someone.
Well, also join the Self-Perfected group on Facebook, because
Obviously, yeah.
it's not just
I'm assuming you already did that step.
well, yeah, I mean, but if you're somehow listening to this and you haven't done, go join that and go to the Friday night hangouts and do the video challenges, because that's participating in a group. There's a lot of pieces that you don't know, like EQUAF, for example. Actually, I was going to mention that audio we listened to the other day when we were on that group call on Friday.
Yeah.
But maybe we can post it or something under this.
Okay.
But okay, yeah, we'll do that. We'll post it under the description. Go check out this audio on EQUAF, because it talks about how your thoughts are reflections of who you are and how all of that manifests reality. Like, you're going to see, like, this is a deeper level of manifestation, creation, law of attraction, all that stuff than you ever even realized at all. Probably a lot of it you're going to be like, I don't fucking understand, which is why you need the Technotutor. The reason we want you to have it is so that you can understand all the stuff that we understand and that we're studying. That's the reason. It's so you can actually learn the material, like, not just that's in the system. You could do that too, but to actually understand how this is all guessing. All human knowledge is guessing. When you study destiny, you're going to see the actual real truth. But the cool thing is, when you use your Technotutor, you'll see that for yourself. It won't be like, well, I just have to believe this. You'll see, oh, this makes sense. The reason why all this is guesswork back here is because people are not actually having a clear, effective vocabulary. They just have the vocabulary the system gave them, not the full thing. So they don't see the whole picture and how it all connects. But I think the more important thing is that you start connecting with other people in the group.
Yeah.
If you're just doing this kind of on your own, you're not going to figure it out on your own. It requires a group of equals. What we want in the group is people who are equal to us, not people who are just following. The one thing that annoys me more than anything else is when I see people posting in the group or in comments and they're saying a bunch of bullshit that's clearly they haven't really been studying. I mean, if they're new, I get that. That's going to happen, right? But if they've been in the group for a while and I'm like, they're still just talking about love and light, or they're still just talking about, I'm like, you're not even, that's a person that's like, okay, we got to trigger that person because they're not to the point where they're like looking and want to know more and investigate and look at their reactions, or they just go away, right? So when I say join the group, it's not because I just want more people in the group. It's because we want to support people to walk this process to become more effective so we can stand up together collectively as a group. It's like teamwork actually in real life, working together, not one person dictating how everything goes, which is how it's going right now in this world. Right. So anything else? I mean, that's it, right?
So for those of you who are already in the group, already doing video challenges, you listen to the podcast, here's your next step. Share it with others, encourage others, sell others on becoming part of the group, sell others on doing the video challenges, right? Because you can do this, you can listen to the stuff all day long. Guess what? That isn't going to have any effect in reality. The real effect in reality is, like Cam and all of us have been saying, is when you take responsibility to share this. And you might face fear and the person might reject you. But guess what? You're going to get stronger from that. And you're going to learn how to become more effective and more persuasive. So use failure as a roadmap so that you can develop yourself and your abilities. And that is, I mean, that's the next level. So do that.
Yeah. And one more thing, you don't have to be bashful. And I guess I'm saying this really for myself, but like, you don't have to be bashful about doing what's best for all, you know, like there's no need, there's no reason. And if you're walking that point, like I had to walk that point, then, you know, that's okay, but push yourself to go out there and do what's best, because otherwise, if not, if you're going to stay quiet in the face of confronting those uncomfortable feelings, then you're allowing for the world to just continue on the way that it is.
Then it's going to be like Ontario, and you're going to not even be able to go outside and play fucking basketball. Then you're going to really regret that you didn't step up sooner.
Right. Yeah. So, hey, join us. Find us on self-perfected.com or on Facebook, self-perfected groups. You can look us up that way. And I guess, Asif,
you might even see Asif at some point.
Yeah. Asif, did you want to jump in and say some closing?
No, don't let him say anything. We're done.
See you next week.
Bye.